Chapter 161, Escape from Death. In Mingyu Palace, the faces of the people witnessing the sudden change turned somewhat pale. In the instant they sensed something was wrong, following Li Fan's instructions, they prepared to activate the random teleportation necklaces on their bodies. However, they were astonished to find that this vital lifeline had lost its effect at this moment. As the entire Mingyu Lake, akin to a toy, was being pulled upward towards the sky, Su Xiaomei, Xiao Heng, and the others had extremely unpleasant expressions. This kind of power is that of a Tao integration immortal sage. Suddenly, fear and confusion filled their hearts. But for what? Just to gain a few contribution points. The small Mingyu Palace couldn't resist even soul transformation cultivators, let alone a Tao integration immortal sage personally taking action. However, despite their emotions, in front of a Tao integration immortal sage, they could only be like ants, utterly powerless. Helplessly, they watched as the entire Mingyu Palace rose higher and higher, and they themselves, like turtles in a jar, had nowhere to escape. Younger sister, is this the great fortune you mentioned? Yin Yuedan's face turned ghastly pale, and she looked at her sister with disbelief. Yin Yuejun looked bewildered, at a loss for words. Then, as if recalling something, she quickly said, "Don't worry, Senior will definitely make a move. It will surely turn bad luck into good." Before she could finish speaking, a loud noise came from outside the Mingyu Palace. Everyone looked and saw a huge mushroom cloud rising, centered on the Mingyu Palace, expanding rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it covered the entire Mingyu Lake. In the sky, the one who initiated the explosion, Li Fan, had a pained expression on his face. Originally, the planned devouring startling spirit formation was only meant to cover the range of the Mingyu Palace, intending to delay the arrival of a powerful enemy. But unexpectedly, the unknown Tao integration expert didn't directly launch an attack. Instead, he wiped out the entire Mingyu Lake. It seemed like he wanted to take them somewhere. With no choice, Li Fan had to spend several times the original cost to expand the self-detonation scope. It's fine, as long as we can escape this time, we still gain something. Since he chose to take action, Li Fan no longer hesitated. Carefully taking out a black spike from his bosom, he aimed it at the silver thread in the sky and threw it forcefully. At the moment of the explosion of the devouring white mist, the silver thread seemed to encounter a natural enemy and subconsciously contracted for a moment. However, immediately afterward, it ignored the white mist touching it and instead wound even tighter around the Mingyu Lake. In the sky, faint thunder-like sounds could be heard. Devouring white mist. HMPH, your Mingyu Palace is the head of all evils, disrupting my grand plan. Even if it costs me some lifespan, I must capture you. If I don't thoroughly deal with you, it will be difficult to dispel the hatred in my heart. Before the words fell, a black radiance was pierced into the silver thread. Dimension-cleaving nail. Interesting. The radiance of the silver thread dimmed. Then, another black spike shot into the sky. Go. Li Fan's voice sounded timely. Without needing Li Fan's reminder, Su Xiaomei and the others, who sensed that the random teleportation necklaces were once again usable, immediately activated the teleportation formation. One after another, radiant flashes occurred, and the people from the Mingyu Palace disappeared consecutively. Continuous explosion sounds echoed from below. In an instant, the Mingyu Palace turned into ruins. Above the ruins, a black shadow slowly appeared. His face showed no signs of impatience, instead, it carried a playful expression, like a cat teasing a mouse. Escape. Where can you escape to? The black-robed cultivator lightly waved his whisk, and in the air ahead, several thin threads suddenly appeared out of nowhere, extending in different directions from this point. Little Foundation Establishment late-stage cultivator, you are truly ignorant of life and death. I'll capture you first. The black-robed cultivator extended his right hand, pinching one of the silver threads between his fingers, and slowly exerted force. At the point where the silver thread disappeared, the space suddenly shattered and became blurry. Li Fan's silhouette slowly appeared. At this moment, he was looking up, seemingly gazing at the sky. There was a shocked expression on his face as if even his thoughts were frozen at this moment. His body, along with the surrounding scene, was gradually being pulled back to the black-robed cultivator. Just as Li Fan was about to be completely captured, the movements of the black-robed cultivator suddenly stagnated. The mockery on his face vanished without a trace, replaced by a gradually serious expression as he stared at the ground below. Just now, the large amount of detonated devouring white mist did not return to the white mist barrier that separated the various provinces as it should have. Instead, it descended to the ground. Then, like flowing water, it continuously infiltrated underground. In just a moment, a large amount of devouring white mist was devoured by the earth. This abnormal scene made the black-robed cultivator, who had lived for thousands of years, involuntarily furrow his brows. What is this? Suddenly, a sense of unease surged in his heart. He calculated continuously with his left hand, and his expression kept changing. Clearly, even for the black-robed cultivator, this mysterious event was extremely difficult to calculate. His aura fluctuated, wrinkles appeared slowly on his face, and strands of white hair began to show. Blood flowed from his eyes. After a while, the black-robed cultivator suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood. Then, he shouted loudly, devouring rebirth formation. "Old Blue Feather, do you still want to seek longevity even after death?" A trembling sense of fear surged from the depths of his soul, and the black-robed cultivator instinctively had the thought of fleeing. But immediately after, he looked towards the direction of Yuandao Heavenly City. No wonder these years, the usually peaceful Yuandao province has been full of slaughter, with countless cultivators dying. My Blue Feather legacy plan also went unexpectedly smoothly. It turns out I was also manipulated. Arrogance, too much arrogance. The black-robed cultivator gritted his teeth. How could I let you have your way? At this point, he no longer cared about the people from the Mingyu Palace. Letting go of the silver thread, he rushed towards the direction of Yuandao Heavenly City. True, the frozen thoughts gradually recovered, and Li Fan almost uttered the word, truth. However, the pulling force from the other side had already disappeared, and Li Fan, who had returned to safety, forcibly swallowed the word. So, this is a Dao integration immortal sage. Li Fan's face turned dark. All of his so-called preparations were nothing but jokes in the face of absolute strength disparity. Just now, it was undoubtedly the most dangerous moment since Li Fan crossed. He could sense that something had happened around him, but his soul was frozen and he was unable to make effective reactions or thoughts. If the black-robed cultivator hadn't been startled away, Li Fan might really have been finished. Just prompting more than 500 Foundation establishment cultivators to appear prematurely directly attracts an expert of this level. No, there were still quite a few more who were captured along with the Mingyu Palace just now. There are probably many who imitated my breakthrough loaning. So, is it because there's a sudden surge in Foundation establishment cultivators? Chapter 162, The Calamity has long been destined. It seems that although the mountain meditation technique cultivates at an extremely fast speed, the risks are still too great for a high-profile cultivation. This time, I was fortunate to escape with my life due to good luck. The next time, it's impossible to say. Li Fan sighed, then remembered the scene where the black-robed Dao integration cultivator had a terrified expression just now. Devouring rebirth, seeking longevity. I didn't expect that the mastermind behind the chaos in the Yuandao province was actually the deceased Blue Feather immortal sage. Is he trying to reverse the cycle of life and death? Although he still didn't know the specific details of Blue Feather Immortal Sage's plan, the fragments of information from the black-robed cultivator were enough to reveal the terror of Blue Feather Immortal Sage. He sacrificed countless lives of cultivators in the Yuandao province to achieve immortality. Among these fallen cultivators, many were Blue Feather Immortal Sage's subordinates and relatives. I don't know if, after being discovered by this black-robed cultivator, Blue Feather's plan can still succeed. Anyway, regardless of the outcome, the Yuandao province is not a good place to stay for long. I have to leave quickly. Previously, he had already agreed with Su Xiaomei and the others to meet in the Shailan province after splitting up. In these 7 years, with a significant surplus of contributions, even the weakest Yin sisters had broken through to late-stage qi condensation, plus they had some magical treasures for protection. Being a bit careful on the way should ensure their safety. Li Fan surveyed the surroundings. He had been transported to a dense forest, and he didn't know the exact location. He tried to contact others from the Mingyu Palace using communication talismans, but he couldn't establish a connection. After pondering for a moment, Li Fan decided to find a populated place first, identify his current location, and then proceed. He chose a direction, concealed his figure, and swiftly flew. However, halfway through, Li Fan suddenly stopped. His face showed puzzlement. What's going on? Why hasn't the unease in my heart disappeared, and is instead growing stronger? Has that black-robed Dao integration cultivator not given up on chasing me? What kind of grudge is this? What kind of resentment? No, this feeling is not like the helplessness and despair when facing the Tao integration Immortal Venerable. Does the crisis come from someone else? What's going on? The experiences of this life flashed through his mind quickly, but Li Fan couldn't figure out where this fatal crisis was coming from. Li Fan stopped and took out a necklace with a random teleportation formation from his storage ring. After activating it, the scenery around him changed rapidly. Before he could see the environment clearly, Li Fan took out another necklace. He repeated this process 5 times, not knowing how far he had been teleported. Li Fan stopped when he felt a bit dizzy. The uneasy premonition in his heart finally gradually subsided. It seemed that he had temporarily escaped from this unknown enemy. Surveying the surroundings, Li Fan found himself on a plain. In the far distance, there were continuous mountains visible on the horizon. Not far away, there was a city. After inquiring, Li Fan learned that this place was already near the border of the Xilan province, and the city was called Luo Fan City, a remote town without any cultivators guarding it. However, to the north of Luo Fan City, there was a large city called Ronghua City, where cultivators were definitely residing. For his own safety, Li Fan decided to use the teleportation formation in Ronghua City to go to the Xilan Heavenly City in Lai Lo. Li Fan didn't delay any longer and hurried towards Ronghua City. However, when he flew halfway, Li Fan suddenly stopped again. Because the source of that crisis suddenly appeared again, and it was even more urgent than before. As if it appeared out of thin air on the road ahead. Did he use the teleportation formation to come to Ronghua City? The other party can lock onto my location at any time. Li Fan pondered for a moment, choosing not to escape immediately but to land and set up a formation in place. Considering that the opponent still needs to use the teleportation formation, it shouldn't be a Tao integration cultivator. If it's a nascent soul cultivator, it might not be impossible to resist for a moment. At the very least, I need to figure out why he is chasing me. Otherwise, even if I start over, in the next life, I will encounter the same calamity. Abandoning the plan to escape, Li Fan's mind became calm. One by one, he laid out the formations. Explosive Law Formation. Temporarily increases the power of one's Tao techniques by 1 rank. Chaotic Disruption Profound Spirit Formation. Disrupts the flow of spiritual energy around the opponent, reducing their strength to some extent. 5 Elements Sword Chi Formation. Reverses spiritual energy into the power of the 5 elements, turning it into sword chi to harm the enemy. Soul Shock Formation. Uses the remains of beasts to launch a soul-shaking attack with divine sense. Replication Formation. After activating the formation, it memorizes the current technique, and then replicates and casts it. Finally, Li Fan gathered the remaining devouring white mist in one place. He also placed hundreds of exploding seals around it. Although the power of each exploding seal was not too strong, the advantage lay in their large number. Li Fan put the mist and seals in a separate storage ring. Ready to give this unknown enemy a surprise. Unfortunately, with my current level of formation skills, I'm not skilled enough to make a formation crown. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so troublesome. In the cultivation world, under the Tao integration, crossing a large realm to kill an opponent with one's own strength is considered a genius. To kill an opponent crossing 2 large realms is rare in ancient times, known as an unparalleled genius. With the assistance of formations, I can barely be considered half of a golden core cultivator. But I don't know how many rounds I can withstand against this soul transformation true monarch. Everything was ready. Li Fan closed his eyes and meditated, waiting for the enemy. Soon after, a fiery red light tore through the sky and arrived in an instant. The person had arrived above Li Fan's head in an instant. This person had a sturdy figure, fiery red hair, and a flaming red beard. Staring down at Li Fan, his voice was like thunder. You can run pretty fast. Surrender the minor medicine king cauldron, and I might spare your life. The rolling sound echoed continuously in Li Fan's ears. Li Fan squinted his eyes, and in an instant, many thoughts flashed through his mind. Minor medicine king cauldron, hunting me across several states, is it really for this? Could it be some extraordinary treasure? But it's been almost 37 years since I bought these 2 small cauldrons from Zhao Shuyuan. These 2 small cauldrons have no practical use. I've always kept them in the corner of my storage ring, and I've almost forgotten about them myself. If they really have some special value, why did it take so long for the pursuit to begin? Past scenes quickly flashed through Li Fan's mind. It is said that after the immortal ancestor passed on his teachings, before the arrival of the Great Calamity, the sect leader of the Medicine King sect, Lu Rushan, had a vague premonition that the world might undergo significant changes. So, with an extremely tough attitude, Lu Rushan led the entire Medicine King sect, using his Medicine King cauldron as a boat, to break through the void and leave the realm. Zhao Shuyuan spoke confidently. In the 15th year, a fiery meteor illuminated the sky, tearing through the night. Its whereabouts were unknown, but all the cultivators who saw this meteor felt a simultaneous surge of fear, sorrow, and other inexplicable emotions. Good heavens, do you know where this meteor fell? The abyss of Kangwu. That eerie place, unfathomable. No wonder no one has found it for so many years. In the 41st year, the meteor returned to the Kangwu province. Ko Hong and Dao Xuanzi wanted to seek opportunities. The last time, we painstakingly ran to Kangwu State. The news of the discovery of the meteor had just come out when we arrived, and we didn't even get to see what it looked like. We could only return disappointed. Ko Hong complained dejectedly. Li Fan couldn't help but suddenly understand. Could it be that the meteor is the Medicine King cauldron of the Medicine King sect? The Medicine King cauldron that broke through the void before the Great Calamity has now inexplicably returned to the Xuanwang realm. And those 36 minor Medicine King cauldrons that no one cared about in the past have become treasures coveted by everyone for some unknown reason. So, the calamity that endangered my life was this. Chapter 163, Foundation Establishment Slaughters Nascent Soul. Having clarified the reason for the pursuit, Li Fan didn't immediately choose to submit. As he observed the sturdy red-haired man above him, a dangerous glint flashed in Li Fan's eyes. I thought that the one coming to kill me would be a soul transformation cultivator. Unexpectedly, while I was just waiting here, I got a nascent soul cultivator instead. I've cultivated for 100 years and never had a formal battle with anyone. It's the perfect timing to test everything I've learned on you. Seeing Li Fan standing still, the red-haired nascent soul cultivator became impatient. Surrender the minor Medicine King cauldron, and I might spare your life. He shouted again. If it weren't for the concern that attacking might damage the storage ring, potentially causing the loss of the minor Medicine King cauldron, he probably would have slapped this small Foundation Establishment cultivator to death already. Is this the minor Medicine King cauldron you're talking about, senior? Li Fan revealed a flattering smile and then took a small cauldron out of his storage ring, holding it in his hand. The eyes of the red-haired nascent soul cultivator lit up. Yes, that's it. You're quite sensible, little guy. Watching the minor Medicine King cauldron flying towards him, he was satisfied. He reached out to grab the small cauldron, but before he could be happy about it, a storage ring suddenly appeared from the cauldron. Immediately after, a large mass of white mist, entangled with golden threads, appeared next to the red-haired nascent soul. Boom! The mist exploded as hundreds of runes burst into fragments. A tremendous destructive force erupted. Following that, the cloud formed by the devouring white mist enveloped the red-haired nascent soul. You bastard! He roared in anger, and the devouring white mist was instantly blown away. The nascent soul revealed himself again, and the minor Medicine King cauldron had already been put away. There seemed to be no injuries, just a slightly trembling hand, indicating that Li Fan's attack was not entirely useless. You're looking for a... Before he could finish his sentence, the red-haired nascent soul was instantly enveloped by several arrays. His breath stagnated, and then he saw the world seemingly light up. A vast blue ocean suddenly appeared in the sky. A bright blue sword light, with an unmatched aura, flew out from the ocean and slashed towards him. Li Fan's first move was unexpectedly his strongest move at the moment. The Kong Yun Sea Sword. Earthly treasure, the red-haired nascent soul exclaimed, then looked at Li Fan with greedy eyes. The ground cracked and the sky darkened. A volcano rose up, blocking the path of the sword light. The volcano was not like the illusory image of the ocean but instead a tangible object. The surroundings became scorching hot as magma surged out from the cracked ground. The blue sword light dimmed slightly but still pierced through the volcano, slashing towards the red-haired nascent soul cultivator. A trace of seriousness flashed across the nascent soul cultivator's face. He felt that he couldn't avoid this blue sword light. He could only face it head-on. But the sword light unleashed by this Foundation Establishment cultivator actually posed a lethal threat to him. What kind of sword technique was this? In the split second of contemplation, flames emerged on the nascent soul cultivator's body. The flames were like swords and collided with the blue sword light. There was no earth-shattering explosion. The blue sword light gathered and retracted in an instant, forming only a thin blue line. This thin line separated the flames and quickly wound around the nascent soul. The nascent soul was slightly stunned, then saw the opponent utter a light shout. Kong Yun see 28 swords. In the ocean silhouette, another 27 sword lights appeared and flew towards him. Simultaneously, all the arrays erupted. 5 elements sword chi attacked him. The roar of a mythical beast shook his mind. The nascent soul felt that there was a slight gap between his physical body and his dantian. Unbeknownst to him, another blue phantom suddenly appeared, causing the temperature around the volcano to drop instantly. The blue phantom silently flew to the side of the nascent soul cultivator and gently pressed its hand. Along with the 27 Kong Yun Si swords striking the nascent soul, all the arrays also erupted. In an instant from the first Kong Yun Si sword to the remaining 27 sword lights slashing the nascent soul, it was just a moment. The nascent soul cultivator's face was full of astonishment. Cracks appeared on his body. His shattered body became stiff and cold. A gentle breeze blew. Then, like a shattered ice sculpture, it turned into countless tiny fragments and fell to the ground. The nascent soul cultivator's body was shattered. But there was no trace of triumph on Li Fan's face. Because the volcano confronting the Kong Yun Si still existed. It even became more violent. Good, very good. With foundation establishment cultivation, you've destroyed my physical body. You can be proud of yourself. Unfortunately, you, a mere foundation establishment cultivator, won't understand how terrifying the nascent soul realm is. The voice of the red-haired nascent soul cultivator resounded again. Beneath his calm tone, there was an endless fury. As long as my nascent soul isn't annihilated, I won't die. Behind the volcano, a baby's phantom slowly appeared. It clung to the volcano like a parasite, arching its tiny body, and attached itself to the volcano. Don't even think about dying easily. I will torture you with the cruelest methods to vent my hatred. In the resentful voice of the baby, the originally destroyed body of the nascent soul cultivator unexpectedly showed signs of reforming. Li Fan saw that the energy of the volcano was slowly absorbed by the baby. Then, the baby's body, wriggling flesh and blood, appeared out of nowhere. Like weaving a coat, the human shell was slowly taking shape. As long as the nascent soul isn't destroyed, the cultivator does not die. Li Fan looked at the scene before him, contemplating. Using all his means, catching the opponent off guard, only destroyed one physical body. After recovery, he would be the one dead. As expected, challenging cultivators across realms is not an easy task. However, Li Fan's eyes flashed. His aura suddenly erupted, and Li Fan had no reservations at this moment. I still have one last move. Please enlighten me, Senior. The explosive law formation operated to its extreme, on the verge of collapse at any moment. Bearing the far overloaded energy, Li Fan's body was disintegrating inch by inch. His lower limbs gradually disappeared, leaving only the upper torso remaining. At this moment, Li Fan, fearless of life and death, unleashed the sea-covering palm that he comprehended from the ancient Tao resonance. His right hand swung out, seemingly ordinary. In the moment just before the sea-covering palm took shape. Between life and death, Li Fan suddenly had an enlightenment. Xiao Heng and Su Xiaomei observed the sea-covering palm, each having their own insights. Xiao Heng's palm technique was elusive and unpredictable. Su Xiaomei's palm technique, on the other hand, was unparalleled in dominance, suppressing all things. However, Li Fan had always only mastered the form, unable to embody his own true meaning. Always lacking that tiny bit. For several years, there had been no progress. But now, facing a nascent soul stage cultivator with only foundation establishment cultivation, Li Fan, fearless of life and death, unafraid of the gap in realms, decisively struck out with the sea-covering palm. At that moment, he suddenly comprehended the true meaning of his palm technique. That is, defiance. So what if it's a nascent soul stage cultivator? In 2 lifetimes, practicing cultivation for 100 years, with countless secrets in my possession. Moreover, using several outstanding talents as pawns, deducing divine techniques. Killing enemies across 2 realms, what the ancient prodigies did, can't I? Li Fan's body dispersed with the wind, but his eyes became brighter. He laughed loudly. Today, with your life, assist me in attaining mastery. The red-haired nascent soul cultivator sneered, brazen words. Before he could finish speaking, he suddenly found his head enveloped by ominous clouds. It appears to be sea covering. But in reality, it is. Heaven overturning. A giant hand that could not be seen in its entirety descended from the sky, pressing down forcefully. Boom! The volcano, along with the attached nascent soul, turned into powder in an instant. In the high sky, the announcement of the nascent soul cultivator's fall suddenly occurred. But Li Fan paid no attention. His body disintegrated, leaving only half a head. Before consciousness faded away, Li Fan silently recited, Truth. Chapter 164. Establishing the foundation over 100 lifetimes. The simulation has ended. In the familiar yet unfamiliar study, Li Fan stood still immersed in the aftermath of the heaven overturning palm. After a while, he took a deep breath. Although he had killed a nascent soul cultivator as a foundation establishment cultivator, there was not much pride in Li Fan's heart. One reason was that the red-haired nascent soul cultivator was not particularly strong. More importantly, Li Fan did not rely entirely on his own strength. He used the explosive law formation to forcibly increase the power of his techniques to the golden core realm. He also activated a bunch of formations for assistance. In the end, the Kong Yun C28 swords and the heaven overturning palm, two major killer moves, were unleashed together. Ultimately, it ended with both parties perishing. If it weren't for truth, he might have already died. However, then again, if it weren't for truth as a reliance, given Li Fan's character, he probably wouldn't have been willing to sacrifice himself to comprehend the heaven overturning palm that reversed the situation. He stared at the options from truth. Without a doubt, Li Fan chose the second option, retaining his cultivation. While making the decision, he concentrated his mind, paying close attention to the changes about to happen in his body. When he inherited the cultivation of the late Qi condensation stage, the immortal mortal miasma in his body silently dissolved and disappeared as the cultivation appeared. Now, what Li Fan was curious about was how truth would deal with the laws of this world, which demanded that foundation establishment breakthrough required stealing heavenly treasures. Holding his breath, the cultivation of the late foundation establishment stage suddenly surged out from his body. The immortal mortal miasma dispersed like snowflakes, leaving no trace. Spiritual energy inexplicably emerged within him, and then his momentum rose steadily. In the blink of an eye, he reached the late Qi condensation stage. Then, in his dantian, an azure pearl suddenly appeared without any warning. It was the Kanghai pearl that should not have appeared yet. The roots of heaven and earth attached to the Kanghai pearl, transforming its laws into Li Fan's foundation treasure. However, this process of foundation establishment was 100 or 1,000 times faster than Li Fan's own. In an instant, the Kanghai pearl disappeared. A blue ocean silhouette lingered in Li Fan's dantian. In a short moment, Li Fan completed the process of foundation establishment. Afterward, his aura continued to rise until it stopped at the late foundation establishment stage. It seems that even when relying on the power of truth to enhance my cultivation, in this world, I still have to follow the cultivation laws set by the immortal ancestor step by step. This is the power of opposing the principles of heaven and earth, isn't it? The nature of the rules of cultivation has fundamentally changed. If you want to play the game of cultivating immortality, you must follow the established rules. Li Fan pondered for a moment, recalling scenes from his previous life, as if he had gained some insight. After the immortal ancestor opposed the principles of heaven and earth, he no longer appeared in the world. A Tao integration cultivator suppresses a state, and is the strongest battle force on the surface. Under Tao integration, he thought about the various soul transformation cultivators in the Yuandao province killing each other but only ending up as sacrifices for Blue Feather Immortal Sage's rebirth. Li Fan couldn't help but sigh. Under the Tao integration, all are ants. Soul transformation, nascent soul, golden core, foundation establishment. There is no difference. Only after sacrificing a heavenly spirit and achieving Tao integration can one barely enter the gaze of the immortal ancestor. But, without achieving immortality, it is ultimately futile. The Blue Feather Immortal Sage, even after struggling for several millennia, still couldn't escape the ultimate fate. Achieve immortality. Achieve immortality. ... Li Fan murmured these two words repeatedly, as if contemplating something, his brows furrowed. Without achieving immortality, everything is ultimately futile. If one does achieve immortality, then what? In the beginning, the immortal ancestor established a new way of cultivation. From then on, if one does not follow his path of cultivation, it is impossible to cultivate. But if one truly walks his path of cultivation, then even if one truly achieves immortality, they will still be under his shadow. Li Fan seemed to have figured something out, and his face suddenly calmed. In this world, the path of cultivation has already been established according to his will, resulting in fixed rules. To transcend, one must escape the chess game from the very beginning. But as a chess piece, and the weakest one at that, how can one jump out of the game by oneself? Unless one relies on external things. Truth. Li Fan stared at the truth screen in front of him, his gaze constantly shifting. Since the day I learned that everything in the world can be seen as heavenly treasures, I have had the idea of relying on truth to build my foundation treasure. For this reason, I have observed the process of foundation establishment thousands of times. I've also unlocked 2 anchor points. Now is the time to try. With determination in his heart, Li Fan flew to Mount Xieli, where he had first comprehended the formless killing intent. He quickly built a simple grass hut and arranged the surroundings to prevent outsiders from entering. Then he sat cross-legged in the hut. With a thought, the truth prompt appeared at the right moment. Would you like to set the current time as the second anchor point? Li Fan didn't hesitate. Yes. The second anchor point was set in response. Now, it's just a matter of waiting for truth to recharge. The charging speed of truth has not increased, still requiring about 9 years. During this time, I can't afford to be idle. I haven't studied He Zhenghao's mountain and river vein formation diagrams much, but I remember the basics of Zhang Ziliang's infinite formation. It's a good opportunity to continue strengthening my proficiency in formations. It's just a pity that in this land of immortal extinction, I can only improve my theoretical knowledge and cannot practice laying down formations. Li Fan sighed, then settled his mind into the insights of the formation path. 9 years passed in the blink of an eye. It's time. Ready to turn truth into illusion at any moment, Li Fan finally had the confidence to start building his foundation with truth. Currently, his foundation treasure is still the Kanghai Pearl. So, the first step was shattering the foundation treasure. The Tai Shang primordial scripture circulated throughout his body, converting all his cultivation into pure energy and storing it within his body. Then, looking at the ocean silhouette in his dantian, Li Fan forcefully struck his dantian with a finger. Li Fan spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his breath rapidly weakened. The ocean silhouette of the Kong Yun Sea began to violently sway, and a black crack appeared in the middle. The ocean silhouette became increasingly illusory. Li Fan attacked again. After 3 times in total, the ocean completely disappeared from the world. Li Fan, on the other hand, was as weak as a strand of silk, his face as pale as paper, as he almost perished. I exerted too much force. I should be gentler in the next life. Li Fan thought to himself. As his cultivation re-refined, Li Fan's injuries quickly healed, and he returned to the state of perfect qi condensation. If it weren't for this, Tai Shang primordial scripture, trying to build my foundation treasure with truth would probably be 100 times more difficult. The fluctuation of realms in this instant made Li Fan think about this. Settling his mind, Li Fan began his first attempt. Unlike building a foundation with tangible and physical heavenly treasures, truth though residing within Li Fan, was intangible and formless. It was extremely difficult to sense. Fortunately, Zhang Haobo's foundation treasure, the intangible and formless, heavenly calamity sword intent, served as a reference for Li Fan, who had the privilege of witnessing the entire process. After a long time, a hazy white light appeared from Li Fan's dantian. Then, bang, Li Fan's dantian exploded. Truth. Before consciousness vanished, Li Fan silently prayed. The lighting changed, not returning to the original village but instead to the small grass hut atop Mount Xieli. Naturally, he chose to return to the second anchor point. He chose to shorten the recharging time. After reducing 30% of the recharging time, the recharging process would be complete in just 6 years. Li Fan frowned slightly, carefully recalling the process of building the foundation in the previous life and constantly contemplating and comprehending. 6 years passed in the blink of an eye. Truth recharged, and Li Fan began his attempt again. He used 3 fingers to shatter the foundation treasure. This time, although Li Fan's face was still pale, he only spat out a small mouthful of blood. Returning to the state of perfect qi condensation, he diligently comprehended the rules of truth. This time, the faint white light appeared a bit softer. The situation improved slightly but didn't last long. Bang! Li Fan's dantian exploded again. Truth. 6 years later, Li Fan began the third attempt. The white light representing the rules of truth was slightly gentler this time. The duration of persistence this time was longer than the previous 2 attempts. However, it was still far too short for the truth silhouette to take shape. Li Fan's dantian exploded again. Truth, the 4th attempt. Why does my dantian keep exploding? Thinking back to the process of building the foundation in previous lives, Li Fan couldn't help but ponder. The way of cultivation laid down by the immortal ancestor emphasized stability. Even if one's aptitude was poor, as long as the lifespan was sufficient and the conditions were met, success in cultivation was guaranteed. However, Li Fan's current attempt to build his foundation with truth contradicted the way of the immortal ancestor. I originally thought that the difficulty in building the foundation would be in sensing the intangible and formless truth. But unexpectedly, perhaps because truth itself is integrated with me, sensing its existence is not as difficult as imagined. Instead, it seems that the incompatibility with the way of the immortal ancestor's cultivation, leading to the explosion of my dantian, has become the biggest obstacle to my successful foundation establishment. Perhaps if I can solve this problem, building the foundation with truth is not far away. Thinking of this, Li Fan's heart lifted a little. The 4th attempt began. Bang. The 5th attempt. Bang. The 6th attempt. ... Each attempt represented 6 years of time. Although each time ended in failure at the last moment, with the dantian exploding, the radiance of truth indeed became increasingly gentle. Things were developing in a positive direction. Li Fan also strengthened his faith as a result. Continuously reincarnating, Li Fan tirelessly repeated the process of building the foundation, time and time again. Single-minded, he cast aside everything else. The 10th attempt. The 20th attempt. The 30th attempt. ... After 56 attempts, Li Fan finally made significant progress. In his dantian, the gentle white light seemed to condense into a solid entity, as smooth as jade, pleasing to the eye. The radiance no longer changed, instead, its shape transformed. Could it be that success is finally within reach? Seeing this, Li Fan's mind, which was previously calm and unperturbed, couldn't help but ripple with subtle waves. But obviously, things were not that easy. This time, the dantian remained intact, without bursting. But Li Fan felt as if tiny insects were constantly wriggling throughout his body, deep within his bones and muscles. The itching, tingling, and aching sensation made Li Fan emit a muffled groan involuntarily. And this was just the beginning. Round fleshy masses suddenly protruded from Li Fan's body. They seemed to develop a consciousness of their own, swimming ceaselessly across his body. The fleshy masses grew larger and larger. In a matter of breaths, they almost reached half the size of a head. Covered in these horrifying blood-colored tumors, Li Fan now looked like a monstrous creature. Moreover, these bloody tumors were still expanding. Finally, with a puff sound, the tumors reached the limit his chi condensation body could endure and burst like balloons. Flesh chunks and blood splattered everywhere in the small grass hut. Li Fan was also drenched in his own blood. But he remained indifferent. In the sea of consciousness, the azure flame illusionary spirit appeared. At the same time, the Venerable heart refinement mantra kept running. Li Fan entered a state free of worry, fear, and anxiety. The truth silhouette that condensed in the dantian, despite the destruction of his flesh, remained unchanged. However, the physical body of a chi condensation cultivator was quite fragile. Slowly, Li Fan's life aura became faint, then slowly extinguished. As it was about to perish, at the last moment, Li Fan silently recited truth in his mind. The 57th attempt. 6 years later, Li Fan tried again. The white jade light changed shape as Li Fan further comprehended. The fleshy tumors on Li Fan's body kept appearing. After a long time, another failure. The 58th attempt. Failure. The 59th attempt. Failure. ... Repeated failures did not diminish Li Fan's determination and belief. He summarized the lessons learned and compared each foundation building process. Li Fan discovered that deliberate manipulation was more effective than a state of ignorance and confusion. He found that the time he could endure was much shorter if his mind was chaotic. Although I can't perceive truth directly, it seems to influence my body since it is integrated with me. Building the foundation with my consciousness is much smoother than doing it with my subconscious. During the 75th attempt at foundation building, Li Fan had a moment of enlightenment. As he expected, the shape of the white jade light sphere gradually became regular with each subsequent attempt, as if he was trimming it back to its original form. The 90th attempt. When the white jade light sphere finally took on an elliptical shape, it stabilized. No more fleshy tumors appeared on Li Fan's body. The light flickered as it transformed from illusion to reality. It seemed to manifest in the Dantian. But, suddenly, a realization flashed through Li Fan's mind. It was still lacking something. It was as if something had abruptly descended into the small grass hut atop Mount Xieli. In an instant, Li Fan's hair turned snow-white. His skin dried up and wrinkled. Terrifying grooves and cracks appeared on his face. His muscles dissolved, leaving only a layer of skin hanging on the skeleton. He became deformed like a horrific monstrosity. Li Fan's age rapidly increased, and in a moment, he seemed on the verge of dying of old age. Truth. Without hesitation, Li Fan exclaimed. From the 91st to the 98th attempt, each attempt was the same. Success in establishing the foundation with truth was just a tiny step away. On the 99th attempt, he returned to the Mount Xieli. What exactly is lacking? Li Fan frowned. He knew that success was now within a hair's breadth. But it wasn't something that simple attempts could resolve. It required a moment of enlightenment to identify the problem. Li Fan had a premonition that the answer should be simple. It was like breaking through a thin layer of window paper, easy to pierce. However, at this moment, Li Fan was stuck on this mountain, unable to see the true nature. He couldn't find the exact solution. As Li Fan contemplated, he descended from the mountain. He strolled through the mortal world, seeking his own answers. At the same time, he observed the vast world of the Grand Zon that hadn't been influenced by him. In the 5th year, a severe drought hit Zhongnan. A group of refugees attacked the Langya prince's estate. The Langya prince's estate suffered heavy losses. Except for Prince Langya, who escaped through a secret tunnel, saving his life, the rest of the mansion's inhabitants were mercilessly killed by the refugees. The news spread, shaking the court and the public. The emperor was furious and ordered the military to suppress the rebels. Simultaneously, he summoned Prince Langya to the capital and protected him. From then on, Prince Langya remained in the capital. In the 15th year, the emperor suddenly fell seriously ill. Before his death, he summoned Prince Langya to the palace and passed the throne to him. Prince Langya ascended the throne and changed the era name to Xuanjing. In the 16th year, simultaneous rebellions erupted across the country. Emperor Xuanjing appointed his trusted advisor as the Grand General to lead the army in quelling the unrest. After 3 years, the Grand General finally pacified the rebellions throughout the land. He returned triumphantly to the court. Emperor Xuanjing ordered the officials to welcome the Grand General outside the capital with imperial honors. However, the Grand General, with an arrogant expression, did not dismount in the presence of the officials and did not kneel before the emperor. Emperor Xuanjing remained unfazed, extended his hand, and welcomed the Grand General into the palace. Lavish banquets were held to entertain the guests. After 3 rounds of drinks, the officials quietly withdrew. Dozens of executioners rushed in. The Grand General, who was heavily intoxicated, suddenly woke up and questioned Emperor Xuanjing. Emperor Xuanjing remained silent. Under the attack of the executioners, the Grand General, although valiant and unrivaled, was covered in wounds. Barely clinging to life, he pointed at Emperor Xuanjing and resentfully said, "If there is a next time, I will personally lead a mighty army to crush the imperial capital. I will use your head as a wine jug to satisfy the hatred in my heart." He then died under the swords. Time seemed to freeze at that moment. Li Fan, who had been silently observing, now revealed his figure. His eyes were bright as if he had suddenly enlightened. People don't have a next time. This world doesn't have a next time. But I do. My truth transcends beyond the rules of the world. In an instant, the surroundings became illusory, and Li Fan returned to Mount Xieli. Li Fan exhaled truth again. Truth into lie. Reality into illusion. He stared at the 6 words generated by truth, his mind pure and clear. I will build the foundation based on the rules of truth. Everything fell into place without any obstruction. The white jade light sphere suddenly manifested in the Dantian. The 3rd anchor dropped without delay. Chapter 165. Learning all the laws of the world. Building the foundation for 100 lifetimes, although arduous, has broken my shackles. From now on, I no longer need to worry about the compatibility issues between the cultivation method I practice and my foundation treasure. Any heavenly treasure from all corners of the world can become my foundation treasure. At the peak of Mount Xie, Li Fan, who successfully built the foundation with truth, couldn't help but feel a faint sense of joy in his heart. More than 600 years and 100 lifetimes had been spent all for one goal. Now that it has finally been achieved, the results are extraordinary. Canghai Pearl. Li Fan's mind moved. In the dantian, the white jade light sphere emitted a gentle light. Then, in an instant, it turned into the appearance of a vast blue ocean. Even though Li Fan had used the Canghai Pearl to build his foundation before, at this moment, it was difficult to distinguish the sea inside him from the original Canghai Pearl. It could only be said that they were exactly the same. This is turning lies into truth. Li Fan sighed. The magnificent power of reversing time possessed by truth transcends this world. So, Li Fan's repeated failures in using the complete truth to build the foundation were because of this. However, truth transcends the world, and it also intersects with this world. Its rules within this world could be expressed in the 6 words: truth to lies, reality to illusion. In short, during foundation establishment, truth can transform into any heavenly treasure related to the laws that Li Fan comprehends or that truth has absorbed. Feeling excited, Li Fan changed the appearance of the foundation treasure within his body one after another. Rust Sword Dao Zan, a broken and rusty sword, appeared on Mount Xie. Gnarled Dragon Branch, Indignant Fall, ... As the appearance of the foundation treasure within his body changed, the aura on Li Fan's body also kept changing. After simulating all the heavenly treasures encountered in the 12th life, Li Fan changed truth into the appearance of the Canghai Pearl again. An ocean silhouette appeared above his head, and Li Fan swung his sword. The clouds parted with a single sword strike which flew towards the rising sun in the east. Even when it disappeared from view, its momentum remained undiminished. When performing a Kong Yun Si sword, it's indistinguishable from the real Canghai Pearl. In the world of cultivating immortals, the foundation treasure has a significant impact on cultivators, at least before Dao integration. The cultivation path must match their own foundation treasure. But by building the foundation with truth, I no longer have such worries. This means that I can adopt any law in the world as my own. I even have a premonition. Li Fan's eyes were bright, and he began to daydream. Heavenly treasures are the manifestation of the laws of heaven and earth. If one day, I can simulate and manifest all the heavenly treasures in the world. For example, the Yanfa Ju of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. After a long time, Li Fan finally returned to reality from his fantasies. Building the foundation with truth had allowed him to break free from constraints, and from now on, the possibilities were limitless. However, they were only possibilities. To realize them, he would need careful planning over countless lifetimes. In this life, with the premonition in my heart, I was 100% confident. I didn't wait for truth to complete its charging before I started building the foundation. Now that the foundation is complete, I've set the 3rd anchor point, only a few days apart from the 2nd anchor point. The initial anchor point was the moment I just crossed into this world. The 2nd anchor point is on Mount Xie, with the Canghai Pearl as the foundation treasure, and it's at late-stage foundation establishment cultivation. The 3rd anchor point is just now, with truth as the foundation treasure, also at late-stage foundation establishment. The foundation has been completed, and it's time to return to the immortal world. At this point, there are still 9 years until the completion of charging, but I can make some preparations in this grand zone. With such thoughts, Li Fan drifted down the mountain, returning to the mortal world. As an immortal, he was unstoppable in the world of mortals. After 9 years, Li Fan killed all people who deserved death throughout the world, collecting their blood. In the end, he condensed it into a black-red blood bead. The aura emanating from the blood bead was like it came from a natural enemy. Even from a distance, Li Fan couldn't help but feel his heart pounding. With the charging complete, Li Fan once again used truth. Returning to the 3rd anchor point, this time Li Fan chose the first option, retaining the items he possessed. Of course, it was this blood bead full of immortal miasma. Blood essence of 10,000 people. Looking at the name of this item in truth, Li Fan couldn't help but stroke his chin. It only mentions the mortals' blood, it doesn't mention the immortal miasma. Recalling the process of dispelling the immortal miasma in his body during the foundation establishment process of 100 lifetimes, Li Fan seemed to have some enlightenment. Perhaps, this immortal miasma doesn't actually have a physical existence. Maybe it's more like a curse-like power. Regardless, this blood bead will be my killer move in the future. In the 12th life, whenever Li Fan encountered cultivators with nascent soul cultivation base or above, he felt a sense of powerlessness. He couldn't help but think of the immortal miasma that made all cultivators turn pale. In this life, all the effort was to turn the immortal miasma into truth-bound item so that he could use it anytime. However, from the information I know, in the cultivation world, using immortal miasma to maliciously harm others will cause one to be jointly pursued by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the 5 Elders Association until death. It's not something that should be used until it's absolutely necessary. Well, perhaps, I can use the transformation of truth to disguise myself as someone else. Li Fan gradually sank into deep thought. After 9 years, truth completed its charging. Li Fan swept through the world, filling the Tian boat to the brim. Then he rushed out of the immortal extinction formation, returning to the cultivation world after more than 600 years. At this time, to avoid alerting the Law Enforcement Hall, Li Fan only practiced the Jade Cosmos Thousand Variations Sutra. His foundation treasure transformed into the appearance of the stone tablet of prohibition. Arriving at the Kong Yun Sea, he still headed straight for the Luli Island. When he was close to his destination, Li Fan didn't forget to kill the giant luli fish in passing and took the golden luli pearl. Rest assured, fellow Taoist he, this time you will not lose everything. Li Fan smiled faintly and arrived outside Luli Island. Fellow Taoist he of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, are you here? His voice, like thunder, spread across Luli Island in an instant. After a moment, the solemn voice of He Zhenghao came, this humble one is He Zhenghao. May I ask, fellow Taoist, what important matter brings you to me? It turned out that he had not appeared in person but remained hidden within the island protection array. Li Fan couldn't help but smile wryly, and he immediately said loudly, I have no ill intent, and only desire to join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. I have heard of fellow Taoists' reputation for generosity and wanted to ask fellow Taoists to recommend me. What? Before finishing his sentence, He Zhenghao flashed consecutively, showing up beside Li Fan with a face full of surprise. Easy, easy, He Zhenghao looked at Li Fan and readily agreed. I still don't know the name of fellow Taoist. He bowed slightly, asking with a smile. I am Li Fan. Watching the smiling He Zhenghao, Li Fan couldn't help but also reveal a friendly smile. Asterisk 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 asterisk. TL note, here's a mass release for you guys for the holidays. Merry Christmas smiley face. Chapter 166, Investor He Zhenghao. Fellow Taoist, where did you cultivate before? Inside the pavilion on the mountaintop of Luli Island, He Zhenghao and Li Fan sat facing each other. He poured a pot of spirit tea, filled Li Fan's cup, and then asked. I was originally a loose cultivator in the Yuandao province. In the past few years, while seeking a breakthrough opportunity, I arrived at the Kong Yun Sea. Li Fan took a sip of tea and continued, I am now in the late stage of foundation establishment. As a precaution, I want to prepare for the future golden core cultivation method. Foundation establishment is the limit for ordinary loose cultivators. By exploring on my own, it's extremely difficult to find a golden core cultivation method. After much consideration, I decided to abandon my previous loose cultivation philosophy and join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Li Fan sighed and explained. Fellow Taoist, there's no need to worry. I know that many loose cultivators in the outside world have misunderstandings about our 10,000 Immortals Alliance. They think that our cultivators are like cattle and horses, being driven and having no freedom. This is a great misconception. He Zhenghao explained confidently. The contribution points we use in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance are essentially no different from spirit stones. Essentially, everyone relies on their own efforts to obtain cultivation resources. It's just that within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, there is centralized arrangement. Moreover, the Alliance also has treasures like the Tianshuan Mirror, which is extremely useful. When you witness it, you'll understand. He Zhenghao smiled and said, lifting the teacup to take a sip. I heard that recommending cultivators to join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance comes with corresponding contribution point rewards. Li Fan suddenly asked. Cough, cough. He Zhenghao seemed to have choked and coughed a few times before putting down the teacup. Fellow Taoist, you are quite well informed. Rest assured, I understand the rules. When the time comes, I will share half of the contribution points I obtain. He patted his chest and assured. Li Fan inexplicably glanced at He Zhenghao, then nodded slowly, so be it, please guide me, fellow Taoist. I can't wait any longer. He Zhenghao suddenly felt a chill on his back but quickly dismissed it, thinking it was just an illusion. Hearing Li Fan's words, he immediately said, fellow Taoist, wait a moment. Let me go and get the passage token for you. Otherwise, if you rush onto the island, you will be attacked by the 10,000 Immortals Guardian formation. Li Fan nodded, I've heard about this. Fellow Taoist, please go. He Zhenghao activated the teleportation array and went to 10,000 Immortals Island. Li Fan, on the other hand, waited while drinking tea. Not long after, He Zhenghao returned. Fellow Taoist, just leave behind a trace of your aura. Handing the passage token to Li Fan, He Zhenghao said. Li Fan did it with ease. When you officially join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, remember to return this token. Otherwise, you'll have to compensate for the corresponding value in contribution points. Such a small piece. He Zhenghao was about to say something more but suddenly changed his words. Forget it. Fellow Taoist, let's go. Li Fan nodded, and the two of them passed through the teleportation array, arriving at 10,000 Immortals Island. As before, He Zhenghao introduced Li Fan to the various things on 10,000 Immortals Island. But this time, it was more detailed than the previous two times. Not far ahead is the Tianquan mirror. This celestial treasure is incredibly versatile. Once you use it, you won't be able to part with it. When your contribution points are abundant in the future, you can even buy a Tianquan minor mirror to carry with you. The conversation continued all the way until the two entered the space of the Tianquan mirror. This fellow Taoist is the Foundation Establishment cultivator I reported before who wanted to join our 10,000 Immortals Alliance. He Zhenghao said. After a while, the voice of the Tianquan mirror sounded. Introducing a Foundation Establishment cultivator, recorded as a high-ranking third-grade merit, equivalent to 3,000 contribution points. Current total contribution points, 4,140 points. He Zhenghao was stunned, suspecting that he had misheard. How much? He Zhenghao asked again, so the Tianquan mirror repeated it once more. He Zhenghao looked back at Li Fan with a face of shock and opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a word. What's the matter? Any problem? Li Fan knowingly asked. I don't know. May I ask, fellow Taoist, how old are you now? He Zhenghao cautiously inquired after a while. Li Fan pretended to hesitate for a while before sighing, to be honest, I have been alive for more than 29 years. But spending so much time and still struggling in the late stage of Foundation establishment, with the golden core distant and unreachable, it's really embarrassing to mention this. He Zhenghao immediately turned red, his mouth opened, but he couldn't say a word. After a long time, he forced a somewhat awkward smile. Fellow Taoist, you're joking. The late stage of Foundation establishment at 29. The late stage of Foundation establishment at 29. He Zhenghao thought for a long time before finally squeezing out the words, heavenly genius. No, that's not true. Li Fan shook his head repeatedly. Fellow Taoist, do you know that a true heavenly genius can form a golden core within 8 years of cultivation? They can even jump from golden core to Tao integration. I am far from it. Li Fan said seriously. Hey, what Li Fan said exceeded He Zhenghao's understanding. Not knowing how to respond, he had to show an embarrassed smile. Fortunately, he was an old hand in the cultivation world, quickly changing the topic. Taking out a communication talisman shaped like a mountain peak, He Zhenghao handed it to Li Fan and said enthusiastically, since fellow Taoist is looking for my recommendation, it means you hold me, He Zhenghao, in high regard. In the future, if there is anything I, He Zhenghao, can help you with, feel free to ask. Although my cultivation level is a bit low, I still have some connections on 10,000 Immortals Island. Li Fan took the communication talisman without saying a word, smiling at He Zhenghao. He Zhenghao was first stunned, then slapped his head with a look of realization. If it wasn't for fellow Taoist reminding me, I almost forgot. With a hint of reluctance in his eyes, He Zhenghao transferred 1,500 contribution points to Li Fan. Li Fan nodded in satisfaction and then asked, fellow Taoist has probably been a member of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance for quite some time. Why does it seem like your contribution points are not very abundant? He Zhenghao immediately became energetic and began to explain to Li Fan, fellow Taoist, you don't know. If you have too many contribution points but never use them, they will remain forever stagnant. But if you use the contribution points to invest in commodities like spirit mist grass and Tongshuan wood when their prices are low, you can stock up. Wait until their prices rise, then sell them. You can profit from it. Although the fluctuations are usually small, and each plant doesn't earn much, if you buy a large quantity each time, it still turns out to be a decent profit. He Zhenghao was proud of himself. This is what we call investment. Fellow Taoist, you don't know, but I am well versed in the art of investment. No wonder you dared to go all in with your entire wealth before. It turns out you've tasted the sweetness beforehand. Li Fan looked at He Zhenghao with a strange expression, thinking in his heart. Fellow Taoist, you seem to doubt what I said. He Zhenghao was a bit unhappy. He immediately said, okay, let's do it this way. When there is an opportunity for a big profit next time, I will invite fellow Taoist to join in. Then, fellow Taoist can witness my skills. Chapter 167, Ice Intent Heartless Pill. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. Li Fan looked at He Zhenghao, full of confidence, and said with a smile. He Zhenghao boasted about his past achievements again, bragging about doubling his contribution points in 10 years, making a big profit equivalent to several years of hard work, and so on. After Li Fan signaled with his eyes, he finally stopped, still not completely satisfied. The promotion message from the Tianshuan mirror sounded timely. Cultivator Li Fan, welcome to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. As a benefit, we will give you 1,000 contribution points for free. You can use contribution points to exchange for spiritual stones, cultivation techniques, magical treasures, and more. You have received 1,500 contribution points from He Zhenghao. Current total contribution points, 2,500. Although Li Fan started this life with 2,500 contribution points, for someone who once had a wealth of over 1 million, it was challenging to evoke any psychological fluctuations. Especially in the late stage of foundation establishment, the daily activation of the Tianshuan mirror already cost 300 contribution points. Li Fan now realized that these 300 contribution points were roughly what an ordinary late foundation establishment cultivator could earn in nearly a month of doing low-risk tasks most of the time. After spending one day on assisted cultivation, it would be back to running errands in an endless loop. Add to that occasionally getting lucky with high reward, low-risk tasks. After a year, only a small amount of contribution points could be accumulated. This was the typical fate of ordinary cultivators in 10,000 Immortals Alliance. If there were regrets and one wanted to take a risk, there would naturally be the possibility of death. As someone who regressed, Li Fan would naturally not fall into the same fate. Repeating the same trick, he bought a storage ring, went out, and returned to exchange the gold and silver treasures and the remains of the stone tablet of prohibition in the Taiyan boat. He received 2,831 contribution points. Still too little. Li Fan remembered that in about half a year, the dragon whale that had swallowed many lily pearls and gained wisdom would destroy the island where spirit mist grass was found. Greenwood Rebirth True Immortal also took advantage of this to set up a big harvest. Li Fan didn't want to miss such a feast and naturally wanted to accumulate enough contribution points before participating. Li Fan looked again at the task to collect blue blood coral that he had taken before. Without hesitation, he directly accepted the task. Then he went directly through the teleportation array to Mist Crow Island in the northwest of the Kongyun Sea. The Mist Crow Island was guarded by a foundation establishment cultivator whose hunched body was hidden in a black robe, and his face was unseen. An eerie aura radiated from his body, repelling anyone thousands of miles away invisibly. Li Fan just nodded at him slightly as a sign and then left directly. Once out of the island protection formation, Li Fan looked up. The island was shrouded in a gray mist throughout the day. Within the gray mist, faint silhouettes of flocks of birds could be vaguely seen. Approaching the edge of the mist, Li Fan controlled his spiritual power and captured one of the birds for closer inspection. Croak, croak. This bird was naturally the so-called mist crow. It had no physical form, entirely composed of the gray mist. The mist crow struggled, flapping its wings ceaselessly, attempting to peck Li Fan with its large and curved beak. Upon contact between spiritual energy and the mist, a faint burning sensation surprisingly occurred, leaving Li Fan somewhat astonished. It seems that the mist crow has some utility, but only the members of the Hall of Heavenly Secrets are aware of it. After studying it for a while, Li Fan didn't reach any conclusions and released the mist crow. Then, he proceeded with his main task, flying towards the west of Mist Crow Island. After flying for more than 200 miles, Li Fan suppressed his aura and submerged into the sea. In the vast underwater ruins stretching for dozens of miles, a large blue blood coral grew prominently. Transparent and emitting a faint ethereal light, the coral was surrounded by various underwater creatures that had established their homes around it. A sea snake with strength equivalent to the mid-foundation establishment stage lurked in the vicinity, acting as a guardian. This serene and beautiful scene was abruptly disrupted by Li Fan's arrival. Activating the insect binding technique, Wild Truth also transformed into the Kanghai Pearl. With a slash from the Kong Yun Sea sword, the sea snake instantly lost its life. After the Foundation establishment treasure transformed into the Kanghai Pearl, the power of the technique seems to have been enhanced somewhat within this Kong Yun Sea. Li Fan keenly noticed the difference as he carefully sensed the surroundings. This feeling, is it an inexplicable sense of kinship emitted by the Kong Yun Sea? Is it treating the Kanghai Pearl as a brother? Li Fan chuckled and paid no attention, focusing his gaze on the blue blood coral. With a loud rumble, the blue blood coral was uprooted and stored in Li Fan's storage ring. Countless underwater habitats were destroyed, and the creatures scattered in panic, fleeing for their lives. Li Fan showed no signs of remorse for acting as a harbinger of destruction. 3,000 contribution points are in hand now. Li Fan recalled that Elder Chen from the medicine hall had always been interested in purchasing this blue blood coral. So, carefully recollecting, he identified another location within the Kong Yun Sea where this coral existed. Well, it seems not far from here, in an underwater deep valley, there is another one. Let's take it while we're at it. So, with little effort, Li Fan dug out another blue blood coral. Returning to the Tianshuan mirror, he chose to submit it. After the other party received the 2 corals, the task reward was quickly settled. 6,000 contribution points were instantly obtained. I wonder what pill is Elder Chen refining with this blue blood coral? Li Fan casually asked. After a while, perhaps for the sake of the 2 blue blood corals, the reply came. Ice Intent Heartless Pill, for the purpose of exploring a secret realm. If you find this kind of coral in the future, you can trade them to me. I'll buy as many as you can find. Ice Intent Heartless Pill. Li Fan savored the name of this pill, pondering. With the task completed, Li Fan's contribution points now exceeded 10,000. It had only been 3 days since he joined 10,000 Immortals Alliance at this point. The speed of contribution point growth was truly astonishing. Li Fan then looked at the most eye-catching bounty task. 100,000 contribution points for the Cloudwater map. This opportunity can't be missed in this life. But the so-called Heavenly Doctor is a bit strange. Judging from his strength, he's at least an Dao Integration Immortal Sage. The scene of the black-robed Dao Integration Immortal Sage from Yuandao Province freezing Li Fan's thoughts was still vivid in his mind. Naturally, Li Fan wouldn't choose to face the Heavenly Doctor directly. It seems that I need to refine a clone. Having gathered all the materials for refining the clone, he went to the seabed again and obtained the Heaven Crystal Spirit Sand. Then he headed straight to the cave where Sikong Yi was hiding. Sikong Yi and his clone, Bai Li Chen, had unpredictable whereabouts. If Li Fan used the sun-stealing technique, he was afraid they would sense it and escape through a teleportation formation. Chasing them afterward would be troublesome. It was better to wait here and catch them off guard. Chapter 168, Counterattacking the Immortal Cultivation World. According to the previous intelligence from Zhao Shuyuan, Sikong Yi visited this cave every once in a while. Li Fan decided to wait here. His luck was good. 10 days later, Li Fan, who was in the middle of cultivation, opened his eyes. Sikong Yi and Bai Li Chen walked into the concealed cave expressionlessly. When they saw Li Fan waiting inside, expressions of astonishment and disbelief involuntarily appeared on their faces. Before a single word could be spoken, Li Fan's insect binding technique instantly captured them. No words were exchanged. Li Fan killed them on the spot. He waited for their resurrection chances to be exhausted, completely disappearing from the world. Li Fan put away the sun-stealing token that fell on the ground and began crafting his clone. In theory, the cultivation of the clone was only one small realm behind the main body. However, Li Fan found that to craft a Foundation Establishment stage clone, it was still necessary to use heavenly treasures. Perhaps the sun-stealing technique was indeed powerful initially, but after the immortal ancestor passed down his path, it became somewhat redundant. No wonder the sun-stealing sect has been declining generation by generation. Anyway, this clone is just for sacrifice, so there's no need to waste heavenly treasures. A complete qi condensation cultivation is sufficient. After some contemplation, Li Fan began the crafting process for his clone. This was already the third time Li Fan crafted a clone, and he was familiar with the process. Before long, the clone reappeared in the world. After donning clothes, the clone went to Flowing Cloud Island and joined the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Li Fan did not leave. Instead, he took out He Zhenghao's communication talisman and sent a message. Fellow Taoist He, I've been traveling outside these days and heard some unfavorable rumors about you. He Zhenghao quickly replied, unfavorable rumors? Fellow Taoist must have been mistaken. I, He Zhenghao, have cultivated good karma, and my reputation is excellent. How could it be? Oh, so those rumors about you smuggling mortals are false. It's really hateful, they're spreading malicious rumors. But the rumors are quite elaborate, mentioning lands of immortal extinction and whatnot. Cough, cough, cough. Li Fan hadn't finished speaking, and He Zhenghao's panicked voice came through. Where did fellow Taoist hear about this? This matter requires a face-to-face discussion. Do you have time? Please trouble yourself with coming to my Luli Island. He Zhenghao's voice sounded somewhat serious. Sure. Li Fan smiled and put away the communication talisman, heading straight to Luli Island. After leaving the teleportation array, He Zhenghao greeted him and then activated the mountain river star formation. After studying the art of formations for decades, Li Fan's perspective changed. The mountains and rivers above his head rotated like stars. The power of this formation was unexpectedly superior to the spirit illusory wave formation Li Fan had purchased. Your island protection formation is truly extraordinary, Li Fan exclaimed. Oh, fellow Taoist also understands formations. He Zhenghao, upon hearing this, showed a hint of surprise on his face. A little, just a little. But formations are vast and profound. Without a master, progress is slow with only self-study. Li Fan sighed. If fellow Taoist doesn't mind, you can come to my place for a discussion. He Zhenghao, once he started talking about formations, immediately became spirited, putting aside the reason why he invited Li Fan for the time being. Not to boast, but in terms of formations, ignoring cultivation level, the ordinary nascent soul realm formation masters on 10,000 Immortals Island might not necessarily be better than me. Perhaps only Zhang Ziliang, Gong Boyu, and 3 or 4 others could barely surpass me. Most of this mountain river star formation was built by me personally. He Zhenghao proudly declared. Li Fan chuckled and didn't interrupt. Instead, he asked, let's set aside the issue of formations for now. I'm curious, did you call me here regarding the matter of smuggling mortals across the border? The expression on He Zhenghao's face immediately froze. Ah, he sighed, I won't hide it from you, my friend. I've indeed been secretly involved in some dealings to smuggle mortals across the border. I thought I had concealed it well all this time, but unexpectedly the news leaked. Fellow Taoist, where did you hear about it? He Zhenghao's eyes were full of sorrow and doubt. I was participating in the fish gambling recently. I overheard people talking about rumors regarding you during a casual conversation. As for the specifics or who said it, I don't know. Li Fan had already prepared his statement and responded. Upon hearing this, He Zhenghao felt a chill in his heart. Oh no, every time during fish gambling, there are so many cultivators attending. The matter of me smuggling mortals across the border might have already spread throughout the Kongyun Sea. He Zhenghao's face showed signs of panic. Don't scare yourself, my friend, Li Fan hurriedly comforted. Moreover, it's just smuggling mortals returned to the cultivation world. Although it violates some taboos, it's not a big deal. After all, you're a Foundation establishment cultivator, and you're also guarding an island. Do you really think the 10,000 Immortals Alliance would do anything to you? Li Fan was somewhat dismissive. However, He Zhenghao shook his head repeatedly, sighing, fellow Taoist, you don't do business in this area, so it's normal not to understand the situation. Smuggling mortals across the border is not as simple as violating taboos. If compared seriously, the most severe consequence could be dealt with according to the sin of rebellion. At that time, not to mention the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, even the 5 Elders Association might not provide a refuge. Li Fan was truly stunned this time. Sin of rebellion. How could it be so serious? Helpless, He Zhenghao explained, it all traces back to the farce that happened 500 years ago. With his explanation, Li Fan understood what had happened. Originally, during the Great Migration Plan, thousands of subworlds were settled by mortals. After thousands of years, these places, which were originally desolate with no spiritual energy coverage, had given birth to various extraordinary powers due to various fortuitous encounters. Some had a revival of spiritual energy, while others, due to the methods brought back by mortals crossing the border, reopened the cultivation path by removing the immortal mortal miasma. Some developed body refining techniques, specializing in physical strength. Their bodies were robust, and attacks from ordinary Foundation establishment cultivators were like tickles. Some, although physically weak, mastered ways to communicate with spirit beasts. By controlling spirit beasts in battle, they could also unleash formidable combat power. Harboring resentment from being forcibly expelled from their hometown years ago, these subworlds, under someone's persuasion, surprisingly reached a consensus. They united to counterattack the cultivation world. It was said that at the time, dozens of subworlds responded to the call, creating a huge momentum. The coalition of subworlds appeared suddenly, catching the cultivators at that time off guard. But after all, it was a motley crew. When an immortal sage stepped in, he easily suppressed them. The whole process didn't seem to cause much damage to our cultivators. So, it was just a farce. Think about it, counter-attacking the cultivation world. Haha, how is that possible? However, considering the precedent, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the 5 Elders Association established rules. He Zhenghao furrowed his brows, his face filled with concern. Chapter 169, Clear Wind Hall. It's fortunate that no one is investigating this matter. I'm afraid that if someone with ill intentions wants to take advantage of it and scheme against me, there would be a big trouble. He Zhenghao's complexion worsened the more he thought about it. Fellow Taoist he, there's no need to worry. I believe, at most, it will be treated as gossip during casual conversation. If someone truly wants to plot against you, they wouldn't casually reveal it like this. It's more likely they would directly report it to the higher-ups in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Li Fan consoled him. Nevertheless, just to be safe, fellow Taoist, you should refrain from such activities in the future. Li Fan advised. He Zhenghao sighed and nodded. Then, Li Fan pretended to be very curious and asked, since you know that helping mortal trespassers has considerable risks, why did you do it before? Could it be that the benefits involved were so great that you disregarded life and death? He Zhenghao smiled bitterly, there wasn't much profit involved. A single world makes 2,000 or 3,000 contribution points every 10 years. It's just a slow accumulation over time. Li Fan pretended to be surprised. Fellow Taoist, are you lacking in contribution points to this extent? You would still covet such a small amount. He Zhenghao blushed, who wouldn't want more contribution points? Besides, I also have my difficulties. Then, He Zhenghao explained the advantages and disadvantages of his cultivation technique and his plans to change to another nascent soul technique. Li Fan shook his head. If you've only reached Foundation establishment mid-stage after 100 years of cultivation, then indeed, this technique isn't worth it. It's better not to cultivate it. Fellow Taoist he, you've made a bold decision to change your cultivation technique midway. Although the cost is significant, it seems worthwhile. I support you. I wonder how many contribution points you are short of exchanging for the nascent soul technique. He Zhenghao sighed, the nascent soul technique I want to exchange for is extraordinary. It not only requires 100,000 contribution points, but also a certain level of authority to search for and exchange it. My authority has reached a sufficient level, but accumulating enough contribution points will still take about 10 more years. Li Fan nodded, thinking, so, the list of cultivation techniques I saw in the Tianshuan mirror was incomplete. 10,000 contribution points, indeed, it's a considerable sum. In the over a month since I joined the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, I have come to understand the difficulty of accumulating contribution points. I heard that fish gambling is a one-night opportunity for sudden wealth, so I went to try my luck. Sigh, Li Fan sighed, looking troubled. Fish gambling, hee, I used to be obsessed with it too. But it's been a long time since I participated in it. He Zhenghao solemnly said, let me give you a word of advice, it's better to touch this thing less. You and I simply don't have the foresight and luck. Going there would just be giving away money for nothing. Li Fan agreed, fellow Taoist, you speak the truth. Then, Li Fan changed the subject and said, thinking about it, I feel that the investment method you mentioned earlier suits me better. He Zhenghao's face lit up, hee, Fellow Taoist, you have a good eye to realize this so quickly, unlike me, who wasted half a lifetime before finally finding a stable way to make money. Don't worry, when the next big profit opportunity comes, I won't forget you. Li Fan, however, directly stated, no need to wait for the next time. There is a big money-making opportunity right now. Oh, there's such a thing. He Zhenghao sensed that something was amiss but still asked. Hee, I won't hide it from you. Since you mentioned the investment method to me last time, I've been studying it in my free time. After a month, I feel like I've mastered the key points. If you want to profit from price fluctuations, the most convenient item is the spirit mist grass. The price has been fluctuating between 18 to 22 contribution points per plant throughout the year. If I buy a large quantity of spirit mist grass at 18 contribution points per plant and then sell it all when it reaches 22 contribution points per plant, I can easily make a big profit, right? Li Fan confidently explained. Well, the logic behind it is indeed correct. He Zhenghao, after listening to Li Fan's explanation, couldn't find any flaws and could only nod in agreement. Li Fan slapped his hands together. Now is the best time to buy. For some reason, the price of spirit mist grass has been slowly declining during this period. Now it has dropped to 18 contribution points. Isn't it the lowest price now? If you don't buy now, when will you? He Zhenghao was also excited by Li Fan's words. Makes sense. Immediately, he took out a Tianquan minor mirror from somewhere, and after a light tap with his finger, the price of spirit mist grass appeared. It really dropped to 18 contribution points. He exclaimed in joy. Then he praised Li Fan quite appreciatively. Fellow Taoist, your business intuition is quite keen. No, how did it drop to 18 points? Suddenly, He Zhenghao realized something was wrong, and his face changed. I bought it at 20 contribution points initially and never sold it. Now it dropped again. Li Fan hurriedly said, hey, fellow Taoist, no need to panic. As the saying goes, when things reach their extremes, they can only reverse. The price of spirit mist grass has been steadily declining, reaching the limit. Next, it's likely to undergo a rebound. Perhaps, it might even rise to 23 points in one go. The price is so low now, it's a perfect opportunity to increase our holdings. Reasonable. Increase our holdings, we must increase our holdings. He Zhenghao agreed deeply. Ah, it's a pity that I lost most of my contribution points during fish gambling. I don't know, fellow Taoist, if you could lend. Li Fan hadn't finished speaking, but He Zhenghao shook his head repeatedly. No. As you saw last time, I only have a little over 1,000 contribution points left, and I can't spare any more to lend you. Li Fan looked disappointed. If I miss this chance for a big profit, I'll feel unwilling. He Zhenghao looked at Li Fan, seemingly wanting to say something but hesitating. Li Fan, however, saw through him at a glance and said joyfully, fellow Taoist, what do you want to tell me? He Zhenghao still didn't speak. Li Fan said solemnly, if fellow Taoist could help me this time, I will repay this debt in the future. I have a premonition that I am not far from breaking through to perfect foundation establishment. I'm about to prepare for golden core. Collecting contribution points is urgent. If I miss this opportunity, who knows how long I'll have to wait. Perhaps the last two sentences convinced He Zhenghao. He hesitated for a while, then finally took out a dark green jade token and handed it to Li Fan. Whispering, he said, if fellow Taoist really wants to seize this opportunity, take this token and go to the outermost part of 10,000 Immortals Alliance Island, find a shop called the Clear Wind Hall. Once inside the shop, don't say anything, just show this token. If someone asks, just say that I recommended you. On the surface, Clear Wind Hall is a shop selling various sundries, but secretly, it provides loans of contribution points, cultivation techniques, and various other supplies. Li Fan listened to He Zhenghao's words and smiled slightly in his heart. It's you. Chapter 170. Clear Wind Blows on the Spirit Tree. Previously, when Mingyu Palace was uprooted by that black-clothed Dao integration cultivator, there were many other similar organizations also destroyed. Li Fan speculated at the time that these organizations might not have appeared in imitation of the flourishing lending business of Mingyu Palace. Instead, these organizations were likely originally engaged in other lending-related businesses. After seeing the huge profits generated by Mingyu Palace annually, they couldn't help but imitate its methods. If there were such organizations in Yuandao province, there should naturally be similar organizations in the Kongyuan Sea. If you want to get rich, you can't do without leverage. Li Fan planned to take advantage of the large fluctuations in the price of spirit mist grass to make a hefty profit. Naturally, he needed the help of these lending organizations. But whether it was in the past or in this world, Li Fan, after inquiring in various ways, couldn't find any trace of them. Apparently, this organization was very cautious in its actions. So, Li Fan came to inquire about it from He Zhenghao. Sure enough, He Zhenghao did not disappoint him. Before you go to Clearwind Hall, it's best to reconsider. They won't lend you contribution points for nothing. You need to pay an exorbitant interest of 18% every year. If you make a profit, this interest can be quickly paid off. If you make a loss, He Zhenghao's eyelids jumped. I'm afraid you'll have to work for those guys for free for more than 10 years. Li Fan arched his hand. Fellow Taoist, I understand. But rest assured, I know what I'm doing. I won't bother you anymore. We'll talk again next time. With that, Li Fan used the teleportation array to return to 10,000 Immortals Island. He headed straight to Clearwind Hall. In a corner of the outermost area of 10,000 Immortals Island, he finally found it. It was inconspicuous and indistinguishable from an ordinary small shop. Li Fan activated a concealing form talisman and walked in. An old man who looked quite sloppy was sleeping on a recliner behind the counter. When a customer came in, he didn't even open his eyes, still swaying the chair with his eyes closed. Following He Zhenghao's instructions, Li Fan took out the jade token. Ding, ding, ding. The old man knocked on the counter 3 times. The emerald green jade token emitted a faint light, forming a door. Li Fan looked around for a moment. Then he walked into the door. His figure disappeared, and the green door disappeared with him. As for the old man, there was no change in his posture from beginning to end. It seemed as if no one had ever been to this Clearwind Hall. The surroundings first fell into darkness, then lit up again. Li Fan looked around and found himself under a large tree. The concealment effect of the talisman he had just activated was unexpectedly lifted instantly. The branches were luxuriant, and the leaves were like jade, emitting a shiny luster. On the trunk of the tree, a human face appeared. It stared at Li Fan and asked, "Who introduced you, and what brings you here?" Li Fan faced the tree face and said loudly, "I was introduced by He Zhenghao, the guardian of Luli Island. I want to borrow from your Clearwind Hall." The tree face's reaction seemed a bit slow. After Li Fan finished speaking, it took a long time before it replied, "Late Foundation Establishment Cultivator, the upper limit for borrowing is 30,000 contribution points. Annual interest rate of 16%, you can choose the repayment method yourself. The maximum overdue period is no more than 10 years. ... The tree face slowly introduced the business of Clearwind Hall to Li Fan, one sentence at a time. After finishing, Li Fan expressed some dissatisfaction. "How can I only borrow 30,000 contribution points in total? It's not enough. I'm a foundation establishment cultivator at 29 years old with a bright future. Can't you give me more preferential treatment?" The tree face tried to widen its eyes and carefully stared at Li Fan. After observing for a while, it said, "You can borrow a maximum of 40,000 contribution points." Li Fan was a bit impatient. "You only added 10,000 contribution points. That's too stingy. When I was in Yuandao province, I was only at the mid-foundation establishment stage. I could borrow 70 to 80,000 contribution points at once from Mingyu Palace. Why is your Clearwind Hall so much worse? Tree, can you make decisions? Otherwise, let's talk to someone who can." Li Fan said in a casual manner but discreetly glanced in a certain direction. The branches above swayed without wind, and the green leaves rustled, making a shushing sound. The tree face stared at Li Fan expressionlessly. Li Fan, also unfazed, stared back at the tree face. After a while, the tree face slowly spoke, 50,000, no more." Li Fan looked very regretful, then said, "Oh, by the way. I don't want to borrow contribution points, I want to borrow spirit mist grass. Can you lend that?" He blinked, staring at the tree face. An invisible wind seemed to intensify. The branches and leaves shook more violently. "Yes, if borrowing items, no interest will be charged. It will be based on the quantity borrowed," the tree face said grimly. "In the first year, the repayment amount is calculated at 130% of the borrowed amount. In the second year, it's 160%. In the third year, it's 200%. You can only borrow for a maximum of 3 years." Li Fan was shocked. "So high? But seeing the tree face's unpleasant expression, he immediately chose to keep quiet. He started negotiating again. If borrowing items, can you lend me more? The tree face ignored Li Fan. Seeing this, Li Fan could only regretfully give up. How much spirit mist grass can I borrow now? He asked. 2,700 plants, the tree face grunted. Li Fan muttered a few words, not knowing what he was saying. All right, I'll borrow it. What procedures do I need to go through? Li Fan seemed to have made up his mind. A green leaf floated down from above and landed in front of Li Fan. Taking it in his hand, a stream of information instantly appeared in his mind. It was exactly the agreement Li Fan had just made with the tree face. If you agree, use your spiritual power to refine this green leaf. Li Fan nodded, then used his spiritual power to envelop the green leaf. The green leaf was instantly refined, and a nearly invisible green leaf pattern appeared on the inside of Li Fan's left arm. After repaying the debt, the leaf contract will naturally disappear. Wait a moment, and I will send you the borrowed spirit mist grass. After saying this, the tree face disappeared from the tree, and Li Fan took the opportunity to lift his head and observe the large tree. The strength of the tree face felt a bit strange to him. It was obviously stronger than a nascent soul true lord but weaker than the soul transformation true monarch by quite a bit. Moreover, there were no traces of formations in this space, as if it was naturally formed. Li Fan looked around with interest. After a while, the tree face reappeared. It opened its mouth and spit out a storage ring. All the spirit mist grass is inside. Transaction completed, you can leave. Remember to repay the debt on time, or... Before Li Fan could speak, the tree face expelled him from this space. Under the big tree, strands of green light gathered to form a blurry green figure. Borrowing so much spirit mist grass? Interesting. A crisp female voice came from within. Could it be that the price of spirit mist grass will still drop? Ah Lu, pay attention to it. The tree face responded grimly, yes, miss. Miss, that guy just now was really annoying. The green figure let out a light laugh, indeed, quite annoying. But, which faction is Mingyu Palace a part of? Why have I never heard of it? Chapter 171, Nothing New. After leaving Clearwind Hall with 2,700 spirit mist grass, Li Fan wandered around the vicinity, hoping to find some hidden small lending organizations. Unfortunately, his wish was not fulfilled. Li Fan returned to the Tianshuan mirror, silently calculating. The price of spirit mist grass will rise to 25 contribution points soon, and I need to sell all of it before that happens. After the news of the discovery of the wood attribute subworld spreads, the price will collapse. It will stabilize only after dropping to 6 contribution points. By then, I can buy 3,510 plants and return them to Clearwind Hall. With one round trip, I can earn about 40,000 contribution points. Tisk tisk, so little. Making money is still too difficult. Accustomed to units of 100,000 contribution points, the growth of a mere 30 or 40,000 points didn't seem like much. However, accumulating capital at the beginning is often the most difficult. Once it reaches a certain level, the wealth will start snowballing, and the growth of wealth will become faster and faster. In this life, expanding the business of breakthrough loaning like before seems impossible. It seems that the strict control of the number of cultivators is the reason for the intense reaction from the cultivation world. The power of Dao integration is not something I can contend with at my current level. Li Fan contemplated carefully. The 400,000 contribution points from Zhang Ziliang can't be given up. In this life, someone still needs to push the cultivators of 10,000 Immortals Island to fight against the Crimson Flame. However, maybe I can change the target. The figure of a chubby man suddenly appeared in Li Fan's mind. Zhang Haobo has great luck, but isn't infallible. He can use the strength of the desperate struggle of the Kong Yunxi to kill the Crimson Flame, and successfully reach. However, facing the upcoming Ink Death, he mustered no resistance at all and was killed. His luck had run out, and his life disappeared. If his luck was a bit stronger, would the ending be different? Of course, the most important thing is that I have already comprehended the Kong Yunxi 28 swords. Zhang Haobo will be useless to me if he emerges again. However, Yi Feipeng has a peculiar fate. If he is given enough help, maybe he can give me a surprise. Complemented with mountain meditation technique. I wonder, if he succeeds in entering Dao integration, how much cultivation feedback he can provide. Can he push me to the Golden Core realm? Of course, guiding this person must be done in a different way. If Zhang Haobo was moved by emotion, then this person must be tempted by interest. After some planning, Li Fan had a clear idea. The reason he chose a proxy to carry out the Dao integration was because the risks involved were too high. If even the black-clothed Dao integration could almost freeze Li Fan's thoughts, Ink Death, whose strength was obviously superior, would be even more formidable. Even Zhang Haobo, who had just entered Dao integration, couldn't react in time and was killed. How could Li Fan ensure that he would be an exception? There was a probability of success, but there was also a high probability of being killed. Once he failed, there would be no chance for a comeback. Li Fan had no reason to take such a risk. I can wait for the dust to settle after the spirit mist grass incident and then go to the Dali world. Now, Li Fan searched for information on how to work for the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Soon, a pile of information appeared. There were several ways to take up a position within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The first method was to participate in the assessment held by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance every 10 years. In order to participate in the assessment, one must meet several conditions, such as being a member of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance for at least 30 years, having a cultivation level at Foundation establishment or above, and possessing great talent, among other requirements. In simple terms, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance does not accommodate idle or useless individuals. The second method is to have a high-ranking cultivator within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance serve as a guarantor, recommending a junior cultivator for a position. After a 3-year probationary period, they can be formally appointed. In simple terms, 10,000 Immortals Alliance does not accommodate idle or useless individuals unless there is someone influential vouching for them. The third method is more unique. It involves completing specific tasks, such as assassinating a key figure in the Five Elders Association or accomplishing a critical mission. It is said that Zhou Qingong, the guardian of Tian Island, officially joined the 10,000 Immortals Alliance through this method. Li Fan was particularly interested in what He Zhenghao mentioned about increasing permissions to a certain level, which allows the purchase of techniques that were previously inaccessible. Li Fan discovered that the conventional techniques offered by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance for exchange had limited power. Possibly to restrict the combat capabilities of ordinary cultivators in 10,000 Immortals Alliance, the techniques Li Fan saw in the Tianshuan mirror throughout these lifetimes were not particularly profound. Not to mention matching the Kong Yun C28 swords, even techniques comparable to the C-fixing sword technique were rarely seen. However, Li Fan thought this was reasonable. If powerful techniques were widespread, ordinary cultivators would gain the ability to overthrow the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Wouldn't it be like turning the world upside down? There had to be some limitations. For people under the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's employ, treatment was naturally different. As long as their permissions were sufficient, all kinds of profound techniques were available. The benefits didn't need to be elaborated. Li Fan carefully examined the special reward tasks. As he looked, Li Fan furrowed his brows. The reason he hadn't paid attention to these tasks before was that he didn't have any understanding of them. However, he quickly discovered something suspicious. Only a few of these tasks had actual reward value, such as tracking a spy within the Five Elders Association or eliminating a traitor within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. But the majority of tasks seemed to have a very strong, customized nature, as if they were specially created reward tasks for a particular cultivator. For example, one of the tasks Li Fan saw was particularly peculiar. 10,000 Immortals Alliance's Hall of Heavenly Secrets needed to recruit a cultivator surnamed Wu between the ages of 123 and 130. This cultivator should cultivate a fire attribute technique and be at the Foundation establishment mid-stage. It was almost like calling someone out by name, directly specifying the candidate. Li Fan was no stranger to such practices. However, he didn't expect the 10,000 Immortals Alliance to develop to this extent. After a thorough examination, Li Fan did not find a suitable task for himself. The 10-year assessment had just ended not long ago. Without any other options, Li Fan once again inquired with the ever-reliable fellow Taoist He Zhenghao responded promptly as always. Does fellow Taoist want to officially join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance? Well, that might be a bit difficult. Mainly because fellow Taoist has only recently joined 10,000 Immortals Alliance. But there is still a way. I have some friendship with Master Gong Boyu, who is a master of formations. He has some positions available for formation maintenance personnel every year. You just need to spend a bit of contribution points to obtain this position. By working diligently in this position for 1 or 2 years, you can then establish connections and transfer to other positions. But this is a secret. Be careful not to spread the word. It might result in a negative impact. Chapter 172, Joining the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. So, these positions are openly traded. Isn't there anyone regulating this? Li Fan replied, feigning astonishment. Regulate? Who would regulate it? The soul transformation true monarchs, perhaps. He Zhenghao counter-questioned. Those two on 10,000 Immortals Island seem much more honorable in handling such matters than the people below. Cough. He Zhenghao paused and then explained to Li Fan. 10,000 Immortals Alliance is highly autonomous in each state. As long as you don't violate the rules of the Alliance and don't disturb the Law Enforcement Hall, the headquarters won't bother with the affairs of the various branches. In any case, the trade and distribution of resources within the Alliance have to go through the Tianshuan Mirror. Everything is under control, and there won't be any major chaos. In that case, is the Law Enforcement Hall the most influential? Do you know how one can join it? Even if it requires more contribution points, I am willing. Li Fan inquired, recalling the Foundation establishment law enforcer one who chased him in the 11th lifetime. The personnel of the Law Enforcement Hall in each state are directly appointed by the headquarters. It's quite difficult for fellow Taoists to join the Law Enforcement Hall. He Zhenghao tactfully replied. Many cultivators aspire to become law enforcers, and the competition is fierce. It's hard to even apply. He Zhenghao sighed. The only reliable way is the 10-year assessment. Back then, I also aspired to become a law enforcer, but the requirements were too strict, and I wasn't selected. In the end, I could only settle for becoming an island guardian. Otherwise, I wouldn't be worrying about techniques now. You know, law enforcers can freely select and cultivate techniques. He Zhenghao enviously said. Such a good deal. Li Fan was somewhat surprised. Of course, law enforcers face various ruthless thieves every day, and the risk of dying is not small. It's normal to have better benefits. He Zhenghao said matter-of-factly. In fact, being a formation maintenance personnel is not bad either. Fellow Taoist doesn't have to fixate on becoming a law enforcer. There's a fixed reward every year, and you can also learn formation knowledge for free under the guidance of the formation master. All you need to do is help repair the island guardian formations of the Kongyun Sea. Do you want to consider it? For just 10,000 contribution points, I can help lobby for you. He Zhenghao asked with a tempting tone. Li Fan, however, asked again, I wonder if you're familiar with Master Zhang Ziliang. I heard that this person is generous and has exceptional proficiency in formations, being considered the #1 in the Kongyun Sea. If I become a formation maintenance personnel, it might be better to follow him. He Zhenghao looked a bit surprised. Generous? Fellow Taoist, where did you hear that? This person's temperament is a bit peculiar. But his proficiency in formations is indeed remarkable. Following him might indeed yield greater gains. I can't guarantee this matter, but I can try my best. He Zhenghao honestly said. Fellow Taoist, just go ahead with it. Whether it succeeds or not, I will remember the favor. Li Fan boasted, you don't need to worry about contribution points. After borrowing contribution points from the Clearwind Hall and stocking up on Spirit Mist Grass, I still have some leftovers. It should be enough for this matter. He Zhenghao said upon hearing this, since fellow Taoist says so, then I will do my best. Fellow Taoist, wait for my good news. After expressing his gratitude, Li Fan ended the communication with the sentiment, fellow Taoist, he is truly a good comrade. Free techniques, 10-year assessment. Li Fan pondered for a moment and began searching for relevant information in the Tianshuan Mirror. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance entry assessment was held every 10 years, and the last assessment was about half a year ago. Depending on the desired position, the assessment content varied. The assessment took place in the Tianshuan Mirror, eliminating the possibility of favoritism or cheating. The results were immediately released after the assessment, and participants would lose their memory of the assessment content upon leaving the Tianshuan Mirror. This prevented anyone from taking advantage of the situation to profit. It's really rigorous. Li Fan marveled. Next time the assessment opens, I should go and broaden my horizons. Li Fan continued searching for the impressions of 10,000 Immortals Alliance cultivators regarding the assessment and found that difficult, unreasonable, and corrupt had become the consensus among the majority of cultivators. You have a new image transmission, please check it promptly. While Li Fan was engrossed in his search, the prompt from the Tianquan mirror suddenly sounded. Li Fan was a bit puzzled, so he opened the image, and a man in a green robe suddenly appeared. Hello, young friend. I am Chen Ying from the medicine hall. I wonder, where did you discover those 2 blue blood corals you provided last time? After successfully refining the ice intent heartless pill this time, I found that the efficacy of the pill was unexpectedly stronger than the ones I previously refined. There were no other changes. After much thought, the only unexpected factor was these 2 blue blood corals you provided. So, I refined another batch with different blue blood corals, and indeed, the effect of enhanced efficacy disappeared. The quality of the blue blood corals you provided is much higher than the conventional varieties. I want to go to their growth place to investigate. Perhaps I can discover something. Regardless of the result, if you truthfully tell me, I will certainly reward you. ... After the image disappeared and without an immediate reply, Li Fan fell into contemplation. Recalling the process of harvesting the blue blood corals before, Li Fan did not perceive anything special about those 2 locations at the time. Could it be that I was negligent? Li Fan thought for a moment and decided to make another trip to see what was going on. To prevent this medicine hall Chen Ying from tracking him, Li Fan specifically bought a disappearance talisman in the Tianquan mirror. It was an upgraded version of the concealing form talisman, and could shield against the prying eyes of nascent soul realm cultivators. After activating the disappearance talisman, Li Fan returned to the vicinity of Mist Crow Island, where the underwater ruins containing the blue blood coral were. With Li Fan having taken away the corals, the once vibrant place had lost its former vitality. However, in the crevices of the collapsed ruins, 1 or 2 fish swam by occasionally. There doesn't seem to be anything special. Li Fan explored the area but still couldn't find anything unusual. Even when Li Fan used the formless killing intent to lock onto a fish in the ruins and observed it closely through the vision of heaven and earth, the result remained the same. Next, Li Fan went to the underwater deep valley where he found the second blue blood coral. Still, nothing out of the ordinary. As a nascent soul cultivator and an elder of the medicine hall, he shouldn't be joking with me. So, is it because my cultivation is not high enough to perceive it? At present, it seemed to be the only explanation. Li Fan then returned to the Tianquan mirror and contacted Chen Ying. Chapter 173, Fallen Immortal Realm. Senior, I can truthfully disclose the collection locations of those 2 blue blood corals. As for the reward, it doesn't matter to me. However, after the investigation, could you inform me of the results? I consider myself to have a decent judgment most of the time, but I never expected to overlook something so valuable. If I don't understand the reason behind it, I can't help but feel regret. Li Fan messaged Chen Ying through the Tianquan mirror. Before long, Chen Ying replied, it's just my speculation for now. Young friend, you don't need to worry too much. We still need to confirm on site before drawing any final conclusions. If you don't mind, you can come with me. Looking at Chen Ying's invitation, Li Fan immediately searched for information about him. Chen Ying, nascent soul early stage cultivator, elder of the medicine hall, highly skilled in cultivating spirit plants, and equally proficient in alchemy. Go together. This person should have no ill intentions. Besides, he is only at the nascent soul early stage. If he really discovers some secret and wants to silence me, I should have the ability to defend myself, especially with the blood essence of 10,000 people as my trump card. Having killed a nascent soul cultivator, his mindset had become different. Adding to this, there was also the blood essence of 10,000 people, so even if the other party attempted betrayal, Li Fan still had the power to resist. What do I wish for? After contemplating for a while, Li Fan replied in this manner. Good, there's no time to waste, let's depart immediately. I'll be waiting for you at the transmission square. By the way, for safety's sake, I will change into a completely different appearance. When you call me later, just call me Ying Chen. Remember to conceal yourself when traveling. This is a disappearance talisman I often use, which can hide your cultivation and prevent others from tracking you. Remember to carry it with you and activate it. Chen Ying sent another face with a completely different appearance and a disappearance talisman. This person, Li Fan muttered to himself. To be on the safe side, Li Fan spent 3,000 contribution points in the Tianquan mirror to buy a random teleportation necklace. Then he headed straight to the transmission square. After scanning the area, he saw the transformed Chen Ying. Approaching him, Li Fan arched his hand. Is it fellow Taoist Ying Chen? Chen Ying smiled slightly. Exactly. There's no time to waste. Let's set off. Please lead the way. Li Fan nodded, and without hesitation, he went in front of the Mist Crow statue in Transmission Square. Activating the transmission array, the two of them arrived at Mist Crow Island. The black-robed guardian on the island still had a cold expression. Ignoring him, the two went straight to the ruins under Li Fan's guidance. Senior, this is the place. After reaching their destination, Li Fan informed Chen Ying. At the same time, he moved to the side, on high alert. Chen Ying surveyed the continuous ruins at the bottom of the sea, squinting his eyes. Then, a misty and ethereal scene, like countless spirit plants growing, enveloped his body. Under the cover of the extraordinary vision, Li Fan felt an omnipresent but elusive pressure, making him increasingly nervous. The Kong Yunxi sword, heaven overturning palm, and random teleportation necklace were all ready to be unleashed. After a while, Chen Ying retracted the extraordinary vision. Shaking his head, he said, "Not here, it should be another place." Li Fan instantly breathed a sigh of relief. That place is not far from here, at the bottom of the deep valley in the sea. Li Fan continued leading the way. It didn't take long for the two to reach their destination. Li Fan remained on high alert, moving to the side, while Chen Ying released the extraordinary vision again and carefully sensed it. After a long time, Chen Ying showed a joyful expression. "Well done, it's right here. Previously, an extremely cold force descended here. The blue blood coral only absorbed a slight trace of it, and its efficacy increased so much." Chen Ying closed his eyes slightly, his expression intoxicated. Just by sensing this residual icy force, one can feel an unparalleled tranquility and peace in the heart. All distracting thoughts are eliminated. Such perfection, it seems to have been directly derived from the laws of heaven and earth. Wonderful, wonderful, ... While Chen Ying was talking, he stood still as if entering a state of enlightenment. Seeing him describe this place so mysteriously, Li Fan couldn't help but carefully comprehend it. However, just like before, no matter how he tried, he couldn't sense anything special about this place. Ice-cold energy, dispelling distracting thoughts, the derivation of laws. Li Fan muttered to himself, suddenly realizing something. His expression became strange. He recalled the scene when he obtained this blue blood coral. A large octopus greedily clung to the blue blood coral. Countless tentacles entwined the coral, holding onto it tightly. Any creature daring to approach would provoke the octopus's angry attacks. At that time, in order not to damage this treasure worth 3,000 contribution points, Li Fan used insect binding to restrain the enraged octopus. However, he did not choose to use the Kong Yunxi sword or heaven overturning palm. Instead, he summoned the azure flame illusionary spirit and froze it into an ice sculpture, then effortlessly shattered it. The octopus ice sculpture turned into countless fragments, disappearing on the seabed. Li Fan then casually collected the blue blood coral. So, the cold force that Chen Ying mentioned, which enhanced the efficacy of the blue blood coral, could it be the azure flame illusionary spirit? The more he thought about it, the more possible it seemed. Li Fan couldn't help but find it somewhat amusing. No wonder, no matter how he investigated, he couldn't find anything special. It turns out he had created a misunderstanding. He thought he might encounter some great opportunity. Unexpectedly, the opportunity turned out to be himself. As his doubts dissipated, Li Fan looked at Chen Ying, who was comprehending in a carefree manner, without any defense. He felt somewhat strange in his heart. If this person is cautious, why would he cultivate in front of other cultivators like this? Even if Li Fan appeared to be an ordinary late foundation establishment cultivator on the surface and couldn't pose a substantial threat to him, having the cultivation process interrupted would still be troublesome. However, Chen Ying didn't care at all. He had been quite cautious before, changing his appearance and concealing his name. Li Fan even thought he might be planning to take action in some remote place, secretly making a move on Li Fan. As a result, it turned out to be a false alarm. Nevertheless, despite this observation, Li Fan remained vigilant. He was still prepared to use his two powerful techniques and the teleportation item at any time. He was afraid that the person's surface image was just a disguise. Like this, more than half a day passed, and Chen Ying finally awakened from his enlightenment. His eyes sparkled, his spirit surged, and joy overflowed in his words. He exclaimed, "Excellent! With this realization, my exploration of the fallen immortal realm will become more profound." Li Fan, on the side, listened and felt something stir in his heart. The fallen immortal realm, is that the secret realm he mentioned before? Chen Ying gradually retracted his aura, looking at Li Fan, who seemed to be deliberately keeping a distance to avoid disturbing his cultivation. There was a hint of appreciation in his eyes. Chapter 174, Chen Ying reveals the secret realm. TL note. Term change from Immortal God, the realm after Tao integration, titled Immortal Venerable to Longevity Immortal. The Immortal in, fallen immortal realm, refers to the realm above that, which I'm tentatively naming the true immortal realm, but this is subject to change. It's a little confusing, so I'm open to any suggestions if you guys have any. Here are the raw characters for Longevity Immortal, AC. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Senior, did you gain anything? Li Fan asked from a distance. Hehe, not bad. The remaining ice spiritual energy here is extraordinary. Similar to the ice intent heartless pill I refine, it has effects such as calming the mind and stabilizing emotions, Chen Ying said, showing a proud expression. Moreover, the level of this power surpasses that of the ice intent heartless pill. With this enlightenment, I am confident in improving the pill formula. I believe the refined ice intent heartless pill will have a significant enhancement in efficacy. Envy appeared on Li Fan's face as he said, unfortunately, this junior has dull aptitude and couldn't sense the ice spiritual energy senior mentioned. It's truly heartbreaking to be so close to such an opportunity and yet unable to comprehend it. Chen Ying laughed, the origin of this power is beyond the nascent soul level. As a mere foundation establishment cultivator, it's normal for you to fail to sense it. If I didn't frequently take the ice intent heartless pill and become familiar with similar powers, I'm afraid it would be challenging to perceive its traces. Looking at Li Fan, Chen Ying consoled, you played a significant role in this. I won't go back on my word. So, tell me, what reward do you want? Contribution points, pills, or something else? Li Fan's expression became serious, this junior dares not be greedy. It's all up to senior to decide. Chen Ying was very satisfied with Li Fan's attitude. After pondering for a moment, he took out a Tianquan minor mirror and transferred 30,000 contribution points to Li Fan on the spot. Then, he handed a talisman to Li Fan, saying, contribution points are more versatile. You can buy whatever you need in the Tianquan mirror. This is my communication talisman. If you have any alchemy needs in the future, you can contact me. Chen Ying hesitated for a moment before saying, however, recently, I might not be in the Kongyun Sea. The headquarters found a closed-off subworld with dense wood attribute spiritual energy, suitable for cultivating various spirit plants. They've mobilized manpower to develop it. I received a notice, and I'm also going there. At that time, you might not be able to contact me. Li Fan listened, realizing that this subworld was the culprit causing the drastic drop in the price of the spirit mist grass. Moreover, it would likely affect the prices of most herbs and spirit plants in the market, leading to a sharp decline. This was not the main point. The most astonishing fact was that this wood attribute subworld concealed another 4 subworlds nearby, forming a subtle formation. This information later triggered a conflict between the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the 5 Elders Association. However, this classified information was casually revealed. Was this really appropriate? Looking at Chen Ying, Li Fan felt somewhat amused. It seemed that this person might truly lack cautiousness. Following that, Chen Ying took out another communication talisman, saying, this is the communication talisman of my assistant, Mu Rong. He is a mid-golden core stage cultivator with excellent alchemy skills. When I'm not around, you can contact him. I'll inform him before I leave. Li Fan put away the 2 talismans gratefully and said, thank you for your kindness, senior. I won't forget your great favor. Haha, our meeting is also a form of fate. I find you quite pleasing, so I'll take care of you a bit more. As for great favors and such, there's no need to mention it. Chen Ying waved his hand dismissively. Now that it's settled, I need to go back and study how to improve the pill formula. I won't linger here any longer. After finishing his words, Chen Ying was about to leave. Senior, please wait. Li Fan stopped him. Oh, do you have something else? Chen Ying was surprised. Seeing Li Fan hesitate, uncertain whether to speak, he frowned and instructed, don't beat around the bush. Just say it. Li Fan observed Chen Ying's demeanor and roughly understood his personality. Just now, I heard Senior mention that the exploration of the fallen immortal realm will be more profound. Since the start of my cultivation journey, I have heard that there are supreme experts in this world who have reached the Tao integration and longevity immortal realms. However, I have never heard any rumors about genuine true immortals. So, I am quite curious about the fallen immortal realm you mentioned. I wonder, is it a place where a true immortal has fallen? Li Fan's eyes sparkled with infinite curiosity as he stared at Chen Ying. Oh, this matter, Chen Ying realized. Instead of immediately answering Li Fan's question, he asked, what is your current cultivation level? Due to the activation of the disappearance talisman, Chen Ying couldn't determine Li Fan's true cultivation level. I am currently at the Foundation Establishment late stage, Li Fan truthfully replied. Foundation Establishment late stage. Chen Ying pondered for a moment before continuing. Normally, only cultivators at the Golden Core stage and above should be informed about this matter. However, since you are already at the Foundation Establishment late stage, you must be close to breaking through to the Golden Core stage. Knowing a bit in advance won't hurt. After a pause, Chen Ying continued with a serious expression, just remember, knowing about the existence of the fallen immortal realm is enough. Before advancing to the Golden Core stage, your spiritual consciousness is not strong enough, and you should never attempt to explore it. Otherwise, not only will your spiritual sense be damaged, but it may also harm the foundation of your cultivation. In severe cases, it may even hinder the formation of the Golden Core. Spiritual consciousness strength, Li Fan repeated silently in his heart, nodding in agreement. Then, he immediately reacted, showing some surprise, and asked, so, I can also explore this fallen immortal realm? Chen Ying chuckled, hee, not only you, but all cultivators in the Xuanwang realm can enter and explore it on their own. However, the spiritual consciousness strength of a Golden Core stage cultivator is only enough for limited activities within the fallen immortal realm. To truly explore freely, you'll have to wait until the nascent soul stage. Li Fan became even more curious, where is this fallen immortal realm located? Chen Ying, hands behind his back, sighed, the fallen immortal realm is everywhere. Li Fan was stunned. That's right, Chen Ying nodded. Anywhere in the Xuanwang realm, through specific methods, you can enter the fallen immortal realm at any time. But, only the spiritual sense enters, the physical body does not follow. Li Fan furrowed his brows. Could it be that the fallen immortal realm is purely a realm of consciousness? You can think of it that way. However, it has already transcended the boundaries of illusion and reality. In the fallen immortal realm, the gains can truly be brought back to the Xuanwang realm. And dying in the fallen immortal realm, at most, will only cause damage to the spiritual sense. It won't lead to a real demise. So, the fallen immortal realm is the most explored mystery for cultivators at the Golden Core stage and above. Li Fan immediately realized the value of the fallen immortal realm. What exactly is in the fallen immortal realm? Li Fan couldn't help but ask. What's in there? Chen Ying smiled. He pointed around. Whatever is here in this realm, you will find in the fallen immortal realm. Chapter 175, a glimpse reflecting thousands of years. Noting the confusion in Li Fan's eyes, without waiting for him to ask, Chen Ying began to explain. Why is it called the fallen immortal realm? Chen Ying asked rhetorically. It's because its formation is the result of an unimaginably powerful existence that took one last look at the Xuanwang realm before falling. At that time, everything in the Xuanwang realm was observed by this existence. After its fall, its lingering consciousness did not dissipate for a long time. After thousands of years of development and evolution, it finally formed the current fallen immortal realm. The fallen immortal realm is as vast as the Xuanwang realm, and even larger. The scenes of the past, thousands of years ago, were recorded by its last glance before falling. These vivid scenes continue to replay within it. All cultivators who enter it, in the face of the magnificent and miraculous wonders indistinguishable from the real world, will be shocked and moved by the immense power of that existence. This kind of power is probably something only the mythical true immortals of ancient legends could achieve. Even though I have entered it countless times, every time I witness everything in the fallen immortal realm, I still feel sincere awe. The shock within it is beyond words. Only when seen with your own eyes can you understand. Chen Ying shook his head, deeply moved. A glimpse reflecting thousands of years, forming its own realm after the fall. Li Fan was also stunned by this incredible fact. After a long silence, he couldn't help but think. Just one glance before death, and it possessed such power. How strong was this person during their lifetime? How could such a figure fall? Seemingly aware of Li Fan's doubts, Chen Ying sighed. Incredible, isn't it? Even such a powerful and incomprehensible figure can fall. One thought creates a world. Even the immortal ancestor may not be able to achieve this. So, everyone agrees that the one who fell back then was probably a true immortal. Immortality. Is there really such a thing as immortality? Li Fan couldn't help but ask. Chen Ying was very confident. Cultivating immortality cultivates immortality. If there was no immortality, what would our cultivation method be? If you can go to the fallen immortal realm and live there in the Xuanwang realm thousands of years ago, you will know that immortality is not just a vague concept. In many sects, there are paintings left depicting sect seniors breaking through the clouds and ascending during daylight. It is said that there are even some major sects that have preserved immortal treasures passed down by true immortals with infinite power. However, no one knows when the path to immortality was cut off. After reaching the Tao integration, cultivation progress could no longer be made. Later on, in order to protect themselves, the ultimate goal of cultivators became longevity rather than ascension. This is also the origin of the longevity immortal realm. Chen Ying sighed, this history is too ancient. Even in the fallen immortal realm thousands of years ago, these were just rumors. So, what happened back then, and why the path to immortality suddenly broke off, is already unknown. Li Fan nodded slowly. Next, Chen Ying explained in detail how to enter the fallen immortal realm and what precautions to take when exploring it. Remember, don't attempt it until you reach the Golden Core realm. Before leaving, Chen Ying reminded once again. Li Fan readily agreed. Afterward, in a hurry to return, Chen Ying went back to study and improve the alchemical formula, taking the lead to return to the 10,000 Immortals Island. Li Fan also wasted no time and swiftly returned to the Tianquan mirror. Now that he knew about the miraculous existence of the fallen immortal realm, how could Li Fan not try it? After all, having experienced countless cycles of reincarnation, the strength of his spiritual consciousness was not something an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator could compare with. However, for safety's sake, Li Fan conducted a test in the Tianquan mirror. The surroundings changed, and suddenly, straw figures appeared. Li Fan's spiritual sense, like arrows, fiercely shot toward these sequentially appearing straw figures. Hit by the spiritual sense, the originally withered straw figures instantly changed color. From yellow to green, then to blue. After all the straw figures were dyed, they all disappeared collectively. The scene was restored, and shortly afterward, the test results came out. Li Fan's current spiritual sense intensity was equivalent to an ordinary cultivator in the later stage of the Golden Core realm. Spiritual sense stronger than cultivation base by a major realm. Li Fan wasn't too surprised. So, there is no worry about insufficient spiritual sense. In the fallen immortal realm, the flow of time is not consistent with the real world. Moreover, even in different regions of the fallen immortal realm, the speed of time varies. But overall, it is much faster than the real world. Every time you enter the fallen immortal realm, the location is random. So, different encounters may happen. Some areas continually repeat the history of thousands of years ago, resetting the scenes within every period. Others have been evolving for thousands of years, forming various bizarre and wonderful changes. In short, it was originally a world transformed from the consciousness of a true immortal before its fall. Therefore, anything unimaginable might happen in the fallen immortal realm. There is no risk of dying. To bring back items obtained in the fallen immortal realm to reality, certain conditions must be met. You can forcefully exit midway without any harm. However, similar to exiting after obtaining items, you need to wait for some time before entering the fallen immortal realm again. Unable to find new information about the fallen immortal realm in the Tianquan mirror, Li Fan had to silently repeat the exploration precautions mentioned by Chen Ying in his mind. While doing so, he purchased more than a dozen sets of items needed for each entry into the fallen immortal realm. It wasn't that Li Fan was extravagant, these items were just too cheap. In total, the cost didn't exceed 200 contribution points. Each set included 4 items. A plain linen robe. A full ear of rice. A small and exquisite model of a house. A lifelike miniature donkey cart. Placing the 4 items in each corner, Li Fan took a deep breath. With the first step forward, facing the linen robe, he softly recited. Blessings bestowed by the immortal ancestor of Xuanwang. For the second step, turning toward the full ear of rice, he earnestly murmured. Blessings bestowed by the immortal lord of Xuanwang. The third step, looking at the delicate model house, holding his breath and whispering. Blessings bestowed by the supreme deity of Xuanwang. Finally, facing the seemingly loaded donkey cart, Li Fan exhaled and silently chanted. Blessings bestowed by the celestial sovereign of Xuanwang. As the ritual concluded, Li Fan felt the surroundings suddenly quiet down. Even though there was no sound in the Tianquan mirror to begin with, he still sensed a silence that was different from the previous pure quietness. Then, like the shattering of silver bottles, countless sounds reverberated in Li Fan's ears. The cries of infants, the screams of ordinary people, the roars of cultivators. Spells crisscrossed, mountains shook, and the wind and rain raged. His vision turned black as if his head had been covered by a sack. Li Fan instantly lost consciousness. Chapter 176, Dreaming of the Purple Heaven Sect. Junior brother, junior brother. Everything around seemed to be separated by a layer of viscous transparent substance. When the voice reached his ears, it became distorted and bizarre. The person seemed to wave his hand. As the scene entered Li Fan's eyes, it felt like a fierce beast launching an attack. He was startled. Li Fan subconsciously tried to counterattack but suddenly realized that his techniques, like the Kong Yunxi sword and heaven overturning palm, couldn't be executed. Cold sweat broke out involuntarily. Then, words like, fallen immortal realm, ritual, first exploration, and other terms flashed in Li Fan's mind. As if emerging from underwater, the surroundings gradually became clear. Light and sound returned to normal. Junior brother, what are you thinking? Why have you been in a daze for so long? A young cultivator wearing a purple and white robe, with a purple lightning mark engraved between his eyebrows, was looking in Li Fan's direction. This is the first time you've gone down the mountain in 18 years. Are you thinking about the fun places senior brother told you about before? Don't worry, after our tasks are done, senior brother will take you to experience the Red Dust Pavilion and the drunken Immortal Tower. The young cultivator winked mischievously. Though he was a senior brother, he didn't look serious. Li Fan slowly came to his senses at this moment. Purple Heaven Sect, Li Chen. Follow senior brother Zhang Qinmo down the mountain to Ningyuan City to collect the longevity fruits. In an instant, several pieces of information appeared in Li Fan's mind. Senior brother is joking, let's focus on the important matters. Li Fan replied indifferently, following Li Chen's usual personality as stored in his memory. Ah, so boring. Zhang Qinmo rolled his eyes, sighed, and lazily lay down, no longer paying attention to Li Fan. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Li Fan observed the surroundings. Currently, he seemed to be on a purple cloud. This purple cloud appeared to be a flying magical treasure, rapidly soaring in the sky. There seemed to be a protective array surrounding the outer part of the purple cloud, blocking the gusts of wind. Sitting on the purple cloud was comfortable and serene. Is this the fallen immortal realm? Li Fan carefully sensed and revealed a look of amazement. It's actually a world derived from a thought before death. So lifelike. Li Fan touched the purple cloud beneath him, feeling the pervasive spiritual energy in the air. If it weren't for my previous memories, I would almost think I've transmigrated again. After a long time, Li Fan suppressed the astonishment in his heart. Luckily, I have an original identity on the first entry. Li Fan recalled the precautions Chen Ying explained. After entering the fallen immortal realm, it was possible to form a spiritual avatar for exploration. It was also possible to directly occupy the body of the original creatures in the fallen immortal realm and obtain their identity. Each approach had its advantages and disadvantages. The spiritual avatar could exert one's original strength and magical powers but lacked an identity, being a complete outsider. Without knowledge of the surroundings, exploration and obtaining opportunities would be much more difficult. Moreover, the spiritual avatar would be much more quickly eroded. Having the original identity significantly slowed down the erosion process, as there was an extra shell for protection. This allowed for a longer stay in the fallen immortal realm. Additionally, it enabled easy participation in specific events. The downside was that the strength exerted could only be that of the occupied creature, and one had to be cautious, ensuring that familiar people didn't detect any anomalies. Otherwise, they might be seen as usurpers, leading to ruthless pursuit. Li Fan browsed through Li Chen's memories while adapting to this identity as quickly as possible. At the same time, he sensed the consumption of spiritual energy. Sure enough, even with the protection of the shell, Li Fan could distinctly feel his spiritual energy being eroded. Intensity hasn't changed, but the overall amount is gradually decreasing. When the spiritual consciousness is completely eroded, one will be forced to exit the fallen immortal realm. At this rate, it should only last for about half a month. Li Fan couldn't help but furrow his brow. No wonder Chen Ying said that only golden core stage cultivators can barely operate here. And I still have an original identity. If I were a spiritual avatar, I probably wouldn't last more than 7 or 8 days in this fallen immortal realm. Well, I didn't expect any good gains on the first exploration. Let's consider it a learning experience. With these thoughts, Li Fan checked the situation of Li Chen from the Purple Heaven sect. I'm unfamiliar with this location. The Purple Heaven sect is the largest cultivation sect within thousands of miles. Li Chen and Zhang Qinmo are both inner disciples of the Purple Heaven sect, disciples of primordial nascent true lord, Ling Yunzi. Li Chen is cultivating the technique, Purple Heaven Royal Thunder. Strength is at the late foundation establishment stage. Li Fan searched for memories of the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique in his mind but could not recall anything. Despite being at the late foundation establishment stage, there was no trace of heavenly treasures in his body. The great calamity had not yet arrived, and both immortals and mortals could still cultivate together. There was no sign of a mortal miasma appearing. Is it at this point in time now? According to Chen Ying, the time period in different regions of the fallen immortal realm could be different. At the moment Li Fan was in, the cultivation world seemed to be relatively peaceful. Looking at it this way, Li Fan's start in this adventure was quite smooth. With his thoughts fluctuating, he rested on the purple cloud for most of the day. Li Fan and Zhang Qinmo were finally approaching their destination, Ningyuan City. Zhang Qinmo yawned, stood up, and said with a smile, "Junior brother, let's discuss something. I haven't seen my sweetheart for several years, and I can't wait any longer. So." He winked at Li Fan. "I'll leave the small matter of collecting the longevity fruits to you." He patted Li Fan on the shoulder and, without waiting for a response, turned into a purple light and descended below. It's better to split up to avoid revealing any flaws. Li Fan welcomed the suggestion, controlling the Purple Heaven flying cloud to descend slowly. Which senior brother is visiting this time? Before landing, a purple figure gradually approached. The fluctuations of the technique emanating from the figure were extremely similar to the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique, though weaker by more than half. As the person solidified, Li Fan looked over and saw a middle-aged man wearing a gray robe, seemingly at the qi condensation stage. Seeming to recognize Li Fan, after seeing his face clearly, he cupped his hands and said, "So, it's senior brother Li in person. I hope you will forgive me for being unable to welcome you appropriately." At this moment, information about this person also flashed in Li Fan's mind. Song He-song, an outer disciple of the Purple Heaven sect, is in charge of affairs in Ningyuan City. Let's skip the pleasantries and focus on business. Take me to collect the longevity fruits. Li Fan, in accordance with Li Chen's usual style, had a cold expression and an arrogant demeanor. Song He-song didn't mind. After all, the gap between outer and inner disciples was enormous. Moreover, this person was at the late foundation establishment stage. Being able to call him senior brother was already an acknowledgement of the position Song He-song held in charge of Ningyuan City affairs. Without further delay, he respectfully guided Li Fan into Ningyuan City. It seemed that there was an invisible barrier enveloping Ningyuan City. After passing through it, Li Fan's gaze focused as he stared at the sky. Chapter 177, Transforming Life and Yielding Longevity Fruits. In Ningyuan City, nearly 300,000 mortals resided. Above the heads of these mortals, an invisible barrier enveloped them. The Life Transformation Grand Formation. Li Fan narrowed his eyes, sensing the occasional strands of vitality in the air. With such pure life energy, it's no wonder it can form the longevity fruits that enhance one's lifespan. This pervasive vitality naturally came from the mortals living in Ningyuan City. I remember, in later generations, every branch of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance had protective formations that extracted mortal essence, increasing the concentration of spiritual energy. But compared to the Life Transformation Grand Formation here, it is a great act of kindness. Li Fan's divine sense swept across the mortals in Ningyuan City, noticing that there were very few elderly people. The Life Transformation Grand Formation can absorb the vitality of mortals. Mortals growing within the formation will experience a drastically shortened lifespan. Often, being able to live for 40 to 50 years is already the limit. At this time, the immortal mortal miasma doesn't exist. In the eyes of cultivators, mortals are nothing more than livestock. Li Fan's thoughts were racing, but he made no unnecessary moves. Following Song Yisong, he arrived at the center of Ningyuan City. Here, the life energy became even purer, concentrating into a faint green hue. It formed drifting tendrils that were slowly being absorbed by a large tree growing here. On the branches of the tree hung 3 heavy fruits. They were jade green, crystalline, and emitted an enticing fragrance that made one's mouth water. Senior brother, this is the tree of everlasting life. Song Yisong took out a large seal and pressed it towards the front of the tree of everlasting life. At the same time, he uttered, "Dismiss." Around the tree of life, there seemed to be an invisible barrier. The large seal and the barrier collided fiercely. Dozens of beams of light surged out from the large seal and swiftly, like silver snakes, traversed the invisible barrier around the tree of everlasting life. Senior brother, please lend a hand. While Song Yisong struggled to maintain the large seal, he shouted. Veins bulged on his forehead, indicating the tremendous effort he was putting in. Seeing this, Li Fan didn't hesitate. He stretched out his hand, and a purple seal instantly appeared. Hurry! The purple seal was imprinted on the invisible barrier. Dozens of purple light snakes rushed out of the seal, chasing the silver light snakes from before. Each had its target and devoured them one by one. After a moment, when the silver light snakes were completely absorbed, these dozens of purple light snakes emitted a faint fluorescence. Then they flowed rapidly over the barrier. On the invisible barrier, they formed an image of purple thunderclouds. Now, following the instructions in his memory, Li Fan cast the Purple Heaven True Thunder, which could only be produced by practicing the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique. Purple lightning flickered. The invisible barrier burst open. Li Fan activated the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique, and Purple Heaven spiritual energy shielded his whole body as he entered. Arriving under the tree of everlasting life, he looked up and admired the longevity fruits which were emitting a tempting fragrance. This batch has good quality. Just one of these small longevity fruits can increase one's lifespan by 300 years. Identifying the fruits according to the method in his memory, Li Fan couldn't help but feel deeply moved. It's said that the highest quality longevity fruits can extend lifespan by over 1,000 years. Unfortunately, with the birth of the immortal mortal miasma, it seems that this method of condensing longevity fruits has become ineffective. For later generations, these longevity fruits would undoubtedly be priceless treasures. I wonder if there's a way to bring these fruits back to reality. Thinking about it, Li Fan slowly plucked the 3 longevity fruits from the tree and placed them in a specially made jade box. What should I do next? Should I send these longevity fruits back to the sect, or should I consume them myself? Li Fan hesitated for a moment. According to Chen Ying, everything gained in the falling immortal realm only existed within the realm itself. To bring them back to reality, specific conditions needed to be met. Moreover, these conditions varied, requiring personal exploration. Furthermore, these conditions could change over time. These conditions seemed to be related to the causalities around the items. And each time he entered the falling immortal realm, the location he appeared in would be different. This meant that if he missed it this time, he might miss it forever. This situation made Li Fan feel a sense of loss and anxiety. However, soon Li Fan returned to normal. The greater the value of an item, the more demanding the conditions for taking it out should be. How could it be so easy for me to bring it back to reality? With a self-deprecating smile, Li Fan made a decision. I'll go back to the Purple Heaven sect first and see if there's any chance. I just don't know if there's enough time. At that moment, Li Fan left the protective barrier of the Tree of Everlasting Life, preparing to call senior brother Zhang and return to the Purple Heaven sect. Boom! Just then, a loud sound suddenly echoed through Ningyuan City. Li Fan's heart skipped a beat, and he looked in the direction of the sound. Chixia! The sorrowful cry of senior brother Zhang came from afar. You seek death. Don't even think about leaving. Accompanied by his furious voice, a black streak soared into the sky. Immediately, senior brother Zhang transformed into purple light, chasing closely behind. Li Fan suddenly felt a bad premonition. He hurriedly followed. Song Yisong also followed closely behind. Senior brother, calm down. Be careful, there might be a trap. Li Fan transmitted his voice through divine sense. However, senior brother Zhang seemed to be consumed by anger, losing his rationality. He paid no attention to Li Fan's advice, relentlessly chasing after the black light. Flying to the high sky, the black light suddenly stopped. Looking down at the desperate senior brother Zhang, a conspiratorial smile appeared on his face. Fellow Taoists, why not reveal yourselves? In an instant, 3 more figures appeared beside the black silhouette. They formed a formation, tightly surrounding Senior Brother Zhang, who had entered the encirclement. Senior Brother Zhang, long time no see. The black figure laughed heartily, extremely pleased with himself. Senior Brother Zhang now realized he had been tricked, his face darkening. Senior Brother, do I know you? He stared at the other side for a moment, a bit puzzled. You. The black figure seemed to have suffered a great insult, becoming extremely agitated. By the virtue of your thunder spirit root, you act so arrogantly. You don't even recognize Chu Liang, who once entered the sect with you and was humiliated by you. Senior Brother Zhang, upon hearing this, remembered something. His body trembled, and he exclaimed, "You're Chu Liang. How is that possible? You, who had no spiritual root and couldn't cultivate, were expelled from the sect, right? How do you now have a foundation establishment cultivation?" Chu Liang raised his head, laughing heartily. "You can't cultivate without a spiritual root." Yes, that was true in the past. But now, the immortal ancestor has passed down a new method, and everyone can cultivate. Moreover, our cultivation speed is even faster than you old relics. You, with your thunder spirit root, started cultivating more than 10 years ahead of me, yet you're still at the same level as me. Senior Brother Zhang's face showed an incredulous expression. Everyone can cultivate. That's nonsense. Chu Liang sneered, pitiful. Once you lose your proud cultivation qualifications, what do you have left? Then, he looked at Senior Brother Zhang viciously. Back then, I knelt before your door for 3 days and nights, almost crippling my legs. I begged you to accept me and let me stay in the sect. You remained indifferent and even mocked and insulted me. The humiliation of that day will be washed away with your blood today. Fellow Taoists, attack together. Chapter 178, Ningyuan encounters a siege. Senior Brother Li, it seems Senior Brother Zhang is caught in a heavy siege. Aren't you going to help him? Song He-song asked with a worried expression. Recalling Senior Brother Zhang's strength from Li Fan's memories, he shook his head. Let alone 4 ordinary foundation establishment cultivators, even if someone at the early golden core stage comes, they might not be able to do anything to Senior Brother. Hearing this, Song He-song showed a strange expression, as if confirming Li Fan's words. With a furious shout from Chu Liang, 4 rays of light simultaneously burst forth, about to bombard Senior Brother Zhang. At this critical moment, a purple mirror suddenly appeared above his head, forming a protective barrier around him. Instantly, the 4 rays of light were reflected back. Chu Liang and the other 3 attacking Senior Brother Zhang did not anticipate this turn of events. Caught off guard, their own attacks hit them. A mere speck dares to shine brightly. Senior Brother Zhang's purple lightning imprint between his eyebrows emitted a terrifying light. Threads of purple lightning surrounded his body, exuding a formidable aura. A menacing halberd, full of murderous intent, slowly manifested in Senior Brother Zhang's hands. Pointing the halberd at Chu Liang and the others, he sneered, "Today, I will let you all see the difference between the true inheritance of a major sect and the miscellaneous practices of rogue cultivators." Before his words finished, Senior Brother Zhang flashed to the nearest enemy. With a swing of his halberd, purple lightning resembling a dragon ruthlessly swallowed the opponent without mercy. Ah! The person only managed to let out a scream before disappearing in the raging purple light. In an instant, 1 out of the 4 was gone. The remaining few were unavoidably terrified. Chu Liang shouted, "Fellow Taoist Song, why not take action now? What are you waiting for?" Hearing this, Li Fan's expression changed. Before he could react, he felt 8 blood-red chains suddenly appear beside him, entwining him. Then, a force completely surpassing the foundation establishment stage struck his back. Similarly, a purple mirror appeared above his head, forming a shield that slightly reduced the force. However, the force was too overwhelming. The protective light of the purple mirror only held for a moment before shattering into countless specks of starlight. Taking a direct hit, Li Fan spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura rapidly declined. But the opponent was unrelenting. Looking back, Li Fan saw Song He-song, emotionless, wielding a blood-red giant hammer. With majestic force, the hammer strikes continued, seemingly about to kill Li Fan on the spot. At the critical moment of his death, a jade pendant on Li Fan's chest suddenly shattered. A giant hand, entirely composed of purple lightning, formed from the fragments of the jade pendant. With a single-handed seal, it locked onto Song He-song. Above his head, dark clouds gathered in an instant. A massive purple thunderbolt, as thick as a water bucket, struck down towards Song He-song. Song He-song showed a fierce expression, refusing to dodge or evade, preparing to endure the blow and kill Li Fan first. In the blink of an eye, a long halberd flew from a distance, intercepting the blood-red giant hammer. Senior brother Zhang appeared in an instant, arriving at Li Fan's side and supporting him. "Are you okay, junior brother?" As he spoke, he passed a strand of spiritual energy to help Li Fan stabilize his injuries. Then, with a solemn expression, he looked at Song He-song. At this moment, the spiritual energy in Li Fan's body had slowly recovered from the shock. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, squinting his eyes and staring at Song He-song. This person suddenly turned against them and erupted with strength far beyond the surface of the late Foundation establishment stage. Indeed, it was beyond Li Fan's expectations. Coupled with the fact that he was currently occupying someone else's body and was not familiar with the techniques, it was unexpected and almost led to a fatal sneak attack. Fortunately, the original owner, Li Chen, was still an inner disciple of the Purple Heaven sect, with many means of self-defense, allowing him to barely escape a disaster. Now looking at Song He-song, it seemed that this person had suffered serious injuries from being struck by the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder. However, immediately after that, numerous green life force energies floated up from Ningyuan City below, rapidly restoring his injuries. In just a moment, he was completely healed. Song He-song's face turned gloomy, and the blood-red giant hammer transformed into a long sword, held in his hand. Chu Liang and the other two arrived from afar, surrounding the two Purple Heaven sect cultivators in the center. Ignoring the three Foundation establishment cultivators like Chu Liang, senior brother Zhang looked at Song He-song, his brows furrowed. Mid-Golden Core stage. Manager Song, have you also cultivated that so-called new technique? Song He-song wore a mocking expression. Why not? After toiling away for half of my life for your Purple Heaven sect, I only managed to secure a position as an outer city manager, Song He-song sneered. In addition to a shallow cultivation in the Purple Heaven Thundercalling technique, all I receive is a meager amount of spiritual stones every year. I'm afraid I will remain stuck at the Foundation establishment stage until I grow old. Song He-song continued with resentment, I refuse to face failure simply because I have little talent. After switching to the new technique, I achieved Foundation establishment in 5 years and Golden Core in 10. Senior brother Zhang, what do you think about my talent? Zhang Qinmo looked at the thick blood-red aura lingering around Song He-song, and a murderous intent emerged in his eyes. Evil devil, I will definitely eliminate you. As if hearing the world's funniest joke, Song He-song burst into laughter, mockery evident on his face. Evil devil, you so-called prestigious sects treat ordinary people like livestock, extracting their life force and refining longevity fruits. Such extremely wicked methods, and you dare to call others evil devils. I think you are the real devils. The blood-red aura on Song He-song's body surged along with his angry words. Zhang Qinmo's expression remained unchanged. Mortals receive our protection and must pay a price. Outside the wilderness, demons and beasts are rampant. Mortals are like food. If it weren't for our immortal sect guarding them, where could they live peacefully for so long? You think you can disturb my Tao heart with a few delusional words? In Zhang Qinmo's eyes, the purple color became even more intense. Pointing his long halberd at Song He-song, he declared, even though you're at the Golden Core stage, today, I will still kill you. Under Zhang Qinmo's pointed halberd, Song He-song's breath seemed to be affected, and it momentarily stagnated. But soon, he became somewhat ashamed and angered. I've long heard about the exceptional talents of the inner sect disciples. Today, I'll have to ask you to teach me. With that, the blood-red long sword in his hand instantly split into 6, facing Zhang Qinmo's long halberd. On Li Fan's side, Chu Liang and the other 2 cultivators surrounded him. Facing the siege of 3 cultivators at the same level, Li Fan remained calm. Activating the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique, he took out his spiritual weapon, a long spear. Shaking the body of the spear, it emitted a sound resembling a dragon's roar. Li Fan engaged the 3 cultivators in a battle. Initially, Li Fan was not very familiar with the techniques he could use. There was always a sense of stiffness in his attacks. The 3 cultivators easily dodged each spear attack. Although Chu Liang and the other 2 were at the same cultivation level as Li Fan, having begun cultivation halfway through their lives, their attack methods were weaker by more than a bit. Li Fan dealt with them with ease. As time passed and Li Fan became more familiar with his own spells, his attacks became increasingly sharp and deadly. Chu Liang and his two companions gradually fell into a disadvantage. Chapter 179, Fallen Immortal Realm, Venerable Heart Refinement Mantra. As for Zhang Qinmo and Song Yisong on the other side, one was in the late foundation establishment stage, and the other was in the mid-golden core stage. Although Zhang Qinmo's cultivation level was lower, the techniques he cultivated were more exquisite than Song Yisong's by no small measure. Moreover, the spiritual weapon in his hand was far superior to his opponent's. So, for a while, the two of them were evenly matched. Meanwhile, Li Fan was gradually gaining the upper hand. The situation seemed to be developing in favor of the two from the Purple Heaven sect. Brother Song, the situation seemed a bit unfavorable. One of the attackers against Li Fan shouted loudly. Fellow Taoist Song, don't hesitate, quickly activate the Grand Formation. Chu Liang also called out. A moment of hesitation flashed across Song Yisong's face. It was followed by a grimace. He retreated rapidly, and his blood-red longsword transformed into a large bell, enveloping Zhang Qinmo within. A crazed expression filled his eyes as he slammed both hands towards the direction of Ningyuan City below. In Ningyuan City, there were cries and screams of mortals. Li Fan observed as blood-colored malevolent spiritual energy soared into the air, gathering beside Song Yisong. Within the bloody light were human faces twisted in agony. Song Yisong seized this blood-colored mass and poured it into the blood-red bell. Countless human faces wailed as they rushed toward Zhang Qinmo. Zhang Qinmo's expression changed, and purple energy shielded him as he attempted to resist. But it was in vain. One after another, blood-colored faces rushed into Zhang Qinmo's mind, leaving him stunned. The expression on Zhang Qinmo's face changed constantly, sometimes in pain, sometimes revealing a bizarre smile. Seeing that Zhang Qinmo was temporarily trapped, Song Yisong looked towards Li Fan. Li Fan sensed trouble, however, Chu Liang and the others were currently intensifying their attacks, preventing Li Fan from escaping. Song Yisong arrived in an instant. 1 in the mid-golden core stage and 3 in the late foundation establishment stage. Under the joint attack, Li Fan withstood only for a moment before sustaining heavy injuries. It seems that this first exploration of the fallen immortal realm is going to end here. As his injuries worsened and consciousness blurred, Li Fan heard what seemed like hallucinations. Illusory whispers, soft and rustling. Sometimes urgent, sometimes soothing. Seemingly wailing, resembling roars of anger. However, the specific content could not be distinguished. Before long, Li Fan could no longer resist. Song Yisong's blood-colored giant palm ruthlessly slammed onto Li Fan's head. Bang! Li Fan's head exploded like a watermelon. By all logic, with his body destroyed, Li Fan should have returned to the real world. But, he entered a strange state. The remaining spiritual consciousness, like a black hole, slowly devoured the body of Li Chen, who was a shell. There were no remnants of Li Chen's memories. Just pure spiritual energy, gradually absorbed by Li Fan. The surroundings became increasingly noisy. Soft whispers turned into indescribable shouts. Anger, fear, sorrow, and other negative emotions rushed like a tsunami, vowing to engulf Li Fan. Yet, Li Fan's mind remained unmoved like a rocky shore. Because underneath all of this was what Li Fan had been diligently cultivating since entering the path of immortality. The Venerable Heart Refinement Mantra. After entering the fallen immortal realm, the Venerable Heart Refinement Mantra remained dormant, showing no special effects. But only after Li Chen's body was killed. It started operating crazily on its own. Like a giant mill, it ground down the power that composed Li Chen of the Purple Heaven sect, turning it into the purest supply, nourishing Li Fan's mind. Although Li Chen's body died, Li Fan's consciousness gradually grew stronger. A completely new avatar of consciousness belonging to Li Fan himself began brewing under the headless corpse of Li Chen. Li Fan remained calm, with no ripples in his heart. He coldly watched the plot continue to unfold around him. Song Yisong collected the storage ring from Li Fan's hand and then let the corpse fall from high in the sky. Then he turned to look at Zhang Qinmo trapped in the blood-colored bell. This person's will was unexpectedly so resilient. Under the sentient soul refinement formation that sacrificed tens of thousands of lives, he could still persist for so long, sighed Song Yisong. Unfortunately, the more extraordinary you are, the more you had to die today. Song Yisong clapped his hands towards the Ningyuan city below. Once again, a blood glow formed by countless faces surged towards Jiang Qinmo. Jiang Qinmo's face became even more hideous and terrifying. Several large tumors bulged on his forehead, seemingly alive, moving around. Puff! A tumor burst, causing a large hole in Jiang Qinmo's head. Afterward, like a chain reaction, the tumors on Jiang Qinmo's head burst one after another. Half of his head disappeared. At this moment, Jiang Qinmo's breath was like a candle in the wind, about to extinguish at any moment. However, some unknown force within him continued to sustain his vitality. Even with just a small portion of his head remaining, he stubbornly clung to life. "What's going on?" Chu Liang exclaimed. "It seems this guy still has a big secret." Song He-song's face darkened. He looked at Jiang Qinmo, saying fiercely, "Even so, you are currently a turtle in a jar. I don't believe you can turn the tables." A red light emitted from the blood-colored bell pierced Jiang Qinmo's body. The red light, like a knife, flashed in a crisscross pattern. In an instant, Jiang Qinmo was cut into countless pieces. "After all this, I don't believe you can survive." Song He-song sneered. Chu Liang and the others also breathed a sigh of relief. But not long after, their faces gradually turned pale. Because they discovered that Jiang Qinmo's breath still hadn't disappeared. Bloody hell, what kind of demonic technique is he cultivating? Song He-song finally revealed a terrified expression. "Fire! Use fire!" At this moment, Chu Liang shouted. Song He-song pinched his fingers, and a red fireball appeared underneath the pile of flesh. In the intense heat, the flesh turned into flying ashes. But within this flame, something persisted. No matter how vigorous the flame, it couldn't destroy it. It was a purple-colored golden core. Golden core? Wasn't he in the foundation establishment stage? How could a golden core be formed inside his body? This scene clearly exceeded the understanding of Song He-song and others, and their faces all changed color. In fear, Song He-song used all his techniques to attack the purple golden core. However, no matter what, they couldn't shake the golden core even a bit. Trying to put it into the storage ring was also impossible, because the aura belonging to Jiang Qinmo still lingered above it. Moreover, it was growing stronger and more vigorous. You miscellaneous cultivators, without orthodox teachings, not studying the classics. Even if you learn a new method, it's nothing more than having a high cultivation level. How can you be compared to us orthodox sects? Jiang Qinmo's cold words emanated from the golden core. The golden core immediately radiated brightly, forcing the flames to retreat. A body slowly took shape from the radiance. As the radiance converged, it transformed into clothing. "I said that I will kill you today." Jiang Qinmo looked at Song He-song and spoke in a cold tone. Song He-song trembled all over. He continuously struck downward, and amid the miserable cries of countless mortals, strands of blood-colored light materialized and surged toward Jiang Qinmo. As for Song He-song himself, he didn't care about Chu Liang and the others trembling in fear. He turned into blood-colored light and fled far away. Jiang Qinmo took a step, turning into purple lightning, arriving before the blood-colored light. Song He-song couldn't believe how fast Jiang Qinmo was. Unable to dodge in time, he collided head-on. Boom! Amidst the intense collision, Song He-song seemed to lose control of his own body. Jiang Qinmo reached out with his right hand, gripping Song He-song's neck and lifting him up. "Traitor, die!" Jiang Qinmo pronounced the verdict. A purple lightning bolt descended from the sky. It fiercely struck Jiang Qinmo, who remained unharmed in the lightning, but Song He-song, caught in his grip, let out a miserable scream. He then died. Jiang Qinmo looked towards Chu Liang and others, who had fled in different directions. He sneered, pointing his finger lightly. 3 purple lightning bolts descended. Their auras vanished, and 3 black dots fell from the sky. Jiang Qinmo didn't bother with them anymore. To be forced to this extent. A new method. He showed a contemplative expression. Then, as if sensing something, he flew down to the ground. There, the corpse that originally belonged to his junior brother Li Chen seemed to have melted like a candle. Jiang Qinmo discovered that beneath the remaining layer of skin was another completely unfamiliar person. It was awakening. Chapter 180. Joining the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The candle-like skin slowly melted away. It was gradually absorbed by the unfamiliar cultivator within the corpse. Facing this bizarre scene, Jiang Qinmo did not immediately kill the intruder. Instead, he observed with keen interest. After a moment, Li Chen's corpse was completely absorbed by the Venerable Heart Refinement mantra. Li Fan also revealed his original appearance. With a slight smile, Li Fan bowed to Zhang Qinmo. "Greetings, senior brother." Zhang Qinmo squinted his eyes, and the purple lightning mark on his forehead became prominent. "What exactly are you? A devil? An otherworldly demon?" Facing Zhang Qinmo's inquiry, Li Fan remained composed. "Senior brother Zhang, is it that you can't recognize me just because I changed my appearance?" Before the words could settle, a blue light illuminated the sky. The cloud-shearing sword and heaven-overturning palm successively approached. Zhang Qinmo showed surprise on his face. The long halberd roared like a dragon, colliding with the cloud-shearing sword. Blue and purple lights devoured each other. In the end, the purple lightning prevailed. "Good swordsmanship," Zhang Qinmo praised. Then, facing an invisible palm technique from above, Zhang Qinmo did not dodge but punched straight up. The fists collided. A majestic force erupted, spreading from the location of the two, devastating the city below, which was already in ruins with few mortals surviving. Only the life-engendering longevity tree in the center, protected by the barrier, remained vibrant. Zhang Qinmo was indifferent to the life and death of mortals. But as he looked at Li Fan, his expression turned solemn. "Who are you? Why did you secretly infiltrate my purple cloud sect? Judging by your sword and palm techniques, you don't seem like a miscellaneous cultivator." Li Fan avoided answering and asked, "Senior brother, what technique is this? Clearly only at the foundation establishment stage, yet you can condense a golden core inside your body. Even killing an enemy beyond a realm seems effortless for you." Zhang Qinmo snorted and, seeing Li Fan had no intention to answer, the killing intent in his heart grew stronger. Thus, he showed no mercy. The long halberd swept across, accompanied by purple thunderbolts falling from the sky to assist in combat. Li Fan encountered an opponent with such strength for the first time in his life. His body technique reached its peak, forming the sword formation of the still sea to intercept the dragon-like halberd. During the exchange, the cloud-shearing sword and heaven-overturning palm occasionally mixed in. But he rarely engaged in battles, so he only had those few tricks up his sleeve. Meanwhile, Zhang Qinmo showcased an endless array of techniques. The body born from the golden core was also invincible. Li Fan's attacks occasionally landed on him, causing only minor wounds. They quickly healed. On the contrary, with each burst of purple lightning, the injuries on Li Fan's incarnated consciousness became increasingly severe. The whispering voices returned, influencing his mind. With each passing moment, Li Fan's injuries worsened. After more than 20 rounds, Li Fan's consciousness incarnation was finally cut in half by Zhang Qinmo's halberd. There was no scene of blood flowing. His body disintegrated into countless particles, dispersing in the wind. This person's technique is mysterious, and his sword and palm techniques are full of wonders. He must come from a major sect. However, his actual combat skills are surprisingly ordinary, even a bit weaker than expected. Truly strange. Zhang Qinmo shook his head, filled with confusion. In the heavenly mirror, Li Fan slowly regained consciousness. There was no sign of the weakness Chen Ying had mentioned. He even felt a slight enhancement in his spiritual consciousness. Recalling the experiences in the Immortal Fall realm, Li Fan pondered. It should be the effect of the Venerable Heart Refinement Mantra. But I wonder why this Venerable Heart Refinement Mantra has such an effect in the Immortal Fall realm. Generally speaking, after occupying the original identity and dying, one should directly return to the real world. I, on the other hand, can devour and reorganize, forming a new incarnation of consciousness. It's like having two lives within the Immortal Fall realm. I wonder if there's anyone else who can do it like me. Although this first exploration yielded no results, my consciousness has gained some enhancement. Slightly pleased and without any fatigue, Li Fan immediately prepared to perform the ritual again. To see if he could re-enter the Immortal Fall realm. Unfortunately, there was no response. Li Fan could only regretfully give up. According to Chen Ying, it usually takes 3 to 6 months to re-enter. It's a pity. If one could enter indefinitely without restrictions. Shaking his head, he dismissed this unrealistic thought. Checking the time, only a little less than half a day had passed since he entered the Immortal Fall realm. This time in the Immortal Fall realm, I saw the cultivation world before the great calamity and the appearance of the immortal devil plague. It also exposed several issues I currently have. Although I have supernatural powers, my actual combat ability is a bit lacking. If not relying on array formations for ambush, I can handle ordinary golden core cultivators. But facing true geniuses is a bit challenging. However, this is less my problem and more a difference between two eras. In Zhang Qinmo's era, sect disciples could freely study various techniques and secrets without any restrictions. They could easily find senior brothers for sparring. Nowadays, exchanging techniques is difficult. Powerful techniques, aside from self-comprehension, can only be obtained by joining the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and using merits and contributions. Moreover, finding someone for a friendly spar is too difficult these days. In the Heavenly Mirror, various scenarios can be simulated, but there's no simulation for combat against others. This should be a method used by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance to restrict the combat power of ordinary cultivators. However, with the existence of the Immortal Fall Realm, I can polish and improve my actual combat abilities within it. Of course, the most important thing is still the advancement of my cultivation realm. Li Fan checked his contribution points, over 37,000. Enough to cultivate for some time in the Qi condensation state. Let's cultivate to the perfection of foundation establishment first. So, Li Fan took out the exquisite glass bead and began closed-door cultivation. As time passed, he was awakened by a message from a communication talisman. Checking it, it was a communication talisman from He Zhenghao. Without immediately checking, Li Fan first examined the gains from his closed-door cultivation this time. After nearly 2 months of supplementary cultivation, half of his contribution points were spent. The gains, Li Fan sighed, equivalent to 3 years of hard cultivation in a normal state. However, it was still far from reaching the perfection of foundation establishment. But Li Fan also knew he couldn't be impatient. For ordinary cultivators, each breakthrough in the cultivation realm after foundation establishment required decades. I still need the mountain sitting technique. Li Fan sighed in his heart and then checked He Zhenghao's message. Friend Li Fan, good news, things worked out. Through my tenacious efforts and persuasion, the position of array formation repairer with Zhang Ziliang has been negotiated.